What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 1 MHA Chapter 1 Chi Feng Youth. A few dark clouds covered the moon, making the already dark sky darker. On a swing in a park somewhere, a teenager danglingly stopped the swing, looked up at the sky, and said to himself, "It's time to go back." However, just as he jumped off the swing and was about to leave, 3 punks came out from the corner at some unknown time, holding wooden short sticks in their hands, and slapped them in their hands, and walked towards the boy. "If you are acquainted, hand over your pocket money. Your mother should give you a lot of money to buy snacks, right?" The bastard who took the lead was only about 20, with a face of scumbag. At this moment, the more he talks, the more he is. The stick in his hand does not know what to do. From time to time, it grows up and down, and it looks like a golden hoop. The lonely boy named Chi Feng, 15 years old, is a real traverser. He thought of rebirth of the earth, but found that this is not the earth in the true sense, but a world that he could not imagine. It is not rebirth, but through the overhead world. 80% of the human beings in this world have supernatural powers. People with aptitude can be awakened in kindergarten, those with high aptitude can awaken in elementary school, and those with ordinary aptitude can only be awakened in junior high or high school. This ability is called Quirk by humans. Yes, Chi Feng travels through the world set in the anime My Hero Academia, but the specific process is not the same as Chi Feng. He has been in this world for a month and has not yet been able to awaken his quirk. However, to his surprise, Quirk has not awakened, but instead has an additional system. Speaking of this system, Chi Feng is so angry that this pitted system is called the rescue system. As the name suggests, the word rescue is called rescue. Who is it to save? Anything that has difficulties, encounters danger, or is force majeure, whether it is human or animal, or non-human or non-animal, can also be a violent person. In short, it is just one sentence: save the lives of those who are caught in dire straits. After saving, you will get saving points, and you can draw a lottery when you reach a certain level. As for what you get, Chi Feng doesn't know because he hasn't made up enough saving points yet. No, there are 3 guys who need to be saved. These 3 gangsters are all Quirk awakened, but Chi Feng is not awakened, so what should he do? Of course it is the traditional Chinese martial arts. Speaking of it, Chi Feng is still the heir of a Taoist in Taoism. He has practiced for decades, but because of a very scheming woman, his foundation was ruined, which caused him to go crazy during cultivation and died. After the master, he followed in his footsteps. He has not practiced in this life, but it does not mean that he has forgotten the practice and experience of the previous life. Looking at these 3 punks walking towards him, Chi Feng smiled. "My mother said that there will be 3 people tonight. I'm sending pocket money, I'm waiting here." The headed gangster was taken aback for a moment, and then happily asked, "Where are the 3 people? Are you here?" Chi Feng looked at him like a fool, smiled and said, "Here." "Where is it?" The little gangster looked left and right. However, Chi Feng looked at him without speaking. Finally the bastard understood. He immediately raised the stick and rushed up, shouting, "Little bastard, dare to play with your master. It's also a master, you weren't even a sperm egg when your brother Feng was cultivating on the mountain." As soon as the voice fell, Chi Feng swiped down with one foot, and came to the opponent's feet in a strange arc, and then supported with both hands. Kicked his feet directly on the opponent's chin. The bastard didn't expect a 15 or 16-year-old boy to perform such an operation. He was beaten unexpectedly. The upper and lower teeth knocked together, and he fell directly to the ground in pain and screamed. And the 2 gangsters behind him were dumbfounded. Could this little guy know how to martial arts? Even Gao Lei, who had a quirk, was defeated. Chi Feng did not give up, and immediately rushed forward, trying to knock down the other 2 guys and save them. However, the 2 bastards seemed to be frightened, glanced at each other subconsciously, and then squeezed out 2 pounds from their mouths. Run. The 2 of them ran away without a trace. Even their bosses were ignored. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Damn, these 2 wicked things. Gao Lei pressed his chin and said angrily, but looked at Chi Feng with great dread. If he guessed right, this young man has not awakened yet, and there is no quirk, just an ordinary person. People only. However, what is going on with this weird body technique and tricks is obviously a practice. Why is it so unlucky for me that this kind of thing can happen to a kid who blackmails a kid in the park, and his quirk is a wide awakening? Chi Feng walked in front of him, squatted down, and smiled harmlessly. "Are you wrong?" Gao Lei couldn't say a word, it was too humiliating. Zhang Lei was a bit of a face in this scene, but he was actually humiliated by a baby who was several years younger than himself. There is no face to speak. Besides, did the other party ask if you knew it was wrong? I know you are wrong. Lousy will not admit that you are wrong. It seems that you still have resentment in your heart and didn't realize your mistake. Chi Feng shook his head, then casually raised his right hand and slapped Gao Lei's face with a clear and loud slap. "You." Gao Lei was stupefied by the slap, and then he reacted with anger. He touched a leaf with his right hand. The leaf grew rapidly at the speed of the naked eye. He actually wanted to hit Kai with the leaf. Feng. Slap. 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 Then at this moment, Chi Feng slapped 3 more without saying a word. The leaf in Gao Lei's hand fell to the ground and his face was already swollen. Are you wrong? Gao Lei did not speak. Papa. Are you wrong? I beg you to stop fighting, Gao Lei begged for mercy. Flap. Pop. I was wrong. I really knew it was wrong, Gao Lei cried and said. Give me the pocket money. Chi Feng said. Gao Lei was stunned for a moment. Seeing that the teenager was going to raise his hand to beat him, he immediately took out a few notes from his trouser pocket, and Chi Feng accepted all of them unceremoniously. Since he has a heart to rob, he must be robbed. Consciousness. Seeing a big man crying like this, Chi Feng was also a little embarrassed. At this moment, a rescue points reminder appeared in the background. Save points plus 20 inches. Chi Feng smiled slightly. After coming to this world, he can finally draw the first prize, and he doesn't know what will happen. If you come, you will be at ease. Chi Feng wanted to understand after coming to this world a week. No matter which world he travels to, the most important thing is to live himself well. In the previous life, he did not enter the world, and he has decided to live in this life. Brilliant, low-key alive, high-key publicity. After all, this is the world of heroes. After returning home, Chi Feng took a hot shower, and then bowed to Guan area at home, saying, the area is here, please bless me with some good things. After chanting a few words, Chi Feng was ready to start the lottery. After being in this world for a month, he first practiced for half a month, and then started to nosy and save others. 100 rescue points can be drawn once, and today he is just eligible to draw once. The place where he is located is China, and he did not directly cross the border of the island country. The awakening of Quirk is not only an island country alone. It is said that the first human to awaken Quirk is in China. The whole world is awakening in this era. The era of All Might has come again, but Chi Feng knows that All Might has been seriously injured at this time, but no one has noticed except the principal of Heroes High School and others. Midoriya Izuku didn't even see All Might at this time, and he was just a normal third-year student. Chi Feng slapped his mouth, and started the first lottery with a move of his mind. The golden roulette began to spin quickly, and the rewards on the roulette were all based on. Instead, Chi Feng doesn't know what prizes will be drawn. When the pointer falls on a certain corner, it also changed quickly, and suddenly a voice sounded in his mind. Congratulations, host, for getting the Quirk Awakening option. Please choose a Quirk and start practicing. Quirk, manipulate water element. Quirk, manipulate the fire element. Quirk, manipulate ice element. Quirk, manipulate gold elements. Quirk, manipulate wood elements. Quirk, manipulating earth elements. Quirk, manipulate the thunder element. Quirk, control. Chi Feng stared at the row of numbers blankly, took a breath and blurted out excitedly. So many? Chapter 2 Chief and Deputy Quirk in the 20 square meter rental house. Chi Feng touched his chin and continued to meditate. There are hundreds of quirks for him to choose from, and for a while, he feels a little dazzled, and he doesn't know which one to choose. All Might's One for All is not available. On the contrary, the Bald Man's All for One is also not available. It seems that everyone's quirk is different. Although the attributes are the same, there will be absolute differences in use. Farewell. Chi Feng even saw some very tasteless quirks, such as charging electrical appliances, such as turning his hands into electric fans, such as turning his feet into propellers. This kind of quirk may still be useful in business, but it is too trivial to use it for combat. Since there are quirks to choose from, he must choose the quirk that he believes is the strongest and most powerful. Thunder attribute, light attribute, dark attribute, wind attribute, ice attribute, air manipulation, recovery attribute, power attribute, metal attribute, poisonous gas attribute. Chi Feng thinks these types of quirk are still good, but it feels more difficult to choose one of them. The water and fire are all rotten, and he must choose a quirk that others have never seen before, so it is cool. Air manipulation. Chi Feng muttered. He remembered the owner of All for One. Among them was a looted quirk called Push Air. But it seems to be a fuss compared to air manipulation. Air manipulation can multiply push air, but pushing air cannot achieve air control. According to the animation My Hero Academia, which was chased by Chi Feng in the Taoist temple in his previous life, only a part of the quirks are exposed, such as the creation of Yayorozu, the explosion of Bakugo Katsuki, the ice and fire of Shoto Todoroki. In short, these strange quirks are basically it's all there. But it seems that the world selected by Chi Feng should not exist. Even if there are only a few. To be honest, Chi Feng really wants to manipulate this quirk by air. Think about it, when fighting against someone, it suddenly suffocates the opponent. This kind of operation is scary. Without even having to fight, Villain was suffocated without realizing himself. No one knew who did it. It was exciting to think about it. But Chi Feng also thinks that the light attribute is very good, although I don't know what the characteristics are, except for the light is dark. The two are mutually exclusive. Like Tai Chi, one yin and one yang, one master and one pair. The dark attribute quirk Chi Feng is not prepared to choose. After all, he will take the Heroes Academy in the future. The setting of this attribute will make people feel inherently dark, but Tokiyami Fumikage classmates are excluded, although his quirk shadow is relatively dark, but people have their own settings. If he chooses the dark attribute quirk and he is still a Chinese, he will definitely be regarded as a spy or a bad person. Okay. Don't be afraid of 10,000, but just in case, Chi Feng doesn't want to bet. If he gets caught by the police chief of the Doghead to study what to do, he wants to live a few more years. But then again, he chooses one of these attributes to cultivate to a certain level, and it also crushes most of the quirks. The most important point is that he can cultivate in this world, commonly known as cultivating immortals. These days, Chi Feng has observed that no matter where there is aura, if there is no aura, in short, it will not be very full. If you want to cultivate from the refining period to the foundation, it is simply difficult to reach the sky. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Maybe by the day when the foundation is built, his quirk will be all done. However, one more life-saving method is better than nothing. Now it is not the animation he watched, but the real world. Maybe this world is much bloodier and more complicated than what he saw in animation. No matter what environment, people need to be rational. Chi Feng understands this very well. Choose the thunder attribute. Chi Feng has decided that few people have this attribute. Kaminari Denki's quirk is electricity, which is far worse than his thunder. One more thing, Chi Feng is selfish. In case it's time to cultivate to the foundation building period, the ghost knows if there is a thunder robbery. If he has his thunder attribute quirk, isn't it just right to use it, as long as it is the foundation building period? What? One for all and all for one are not his opponents. Then he will be able to complete his ambition. What is his ambition? Of course, it is Yaoyorozu with his left arm and Mr. Midnight with his right hand. Ha ha ha, what do you think? I am not such a person. Chi Feng, don't want to be crooked, just kidding. Chi Feng thought about it for a while, and laughed happily. After a long laugh, his face was completely clean, and he said to the system in his mind, I choose the mine attribute quirk. Congratulations to host for obtaining the right to select the secondary attribute quirk. You can select another quirk on the mine attribute quirk. Chi Feng. There is actually such a good thing. Chi Feng was immediately stunned. Is this system so awesome? It seems that he is different from the characters in other novels. At the beginning, other people's traversal is a system pitfall, and his traversal system is unexpected. So preferential treatment? I choose air control. Chi Feng almost didn't even think about it. He chose air control. Under the protection of the thunder attribute quirk, this hidden killer can definitely be hidden, and then give villain unexpected effects. After Chi Feng chose the main quirk and the deputy quirk, a burst of thunder bursts in his body. After the thunder, there was a short vacuum state, and all the voices were calmed. The place where Chi Feng lives is a community. It existed when his soul crossed over, but in his memory, the original owner of the body had no parents, which means that he is now an orphan. And this community is also a house built by the state for civilians. It is only for households living in poverty-stricken families, and Chi Feng belongs to households in poverty-stricken families. Looking at his messy room, Chi Feng is not only not upset, but very excited. At this moment, he could feel the two powers in his body. The thunder attribute quirk power was in the front and the air manipulation power was in the back. From the power point of view, both of these were very basic. Host. Chi Feng quirk, thunder and lightning, the second coming of thunder, air control. Quirk level. Thunder and lightning, Thor again. LV10100, air control, LV10100. Space storage. None a piece of information appeared in Chi Feng's mind. Chi Feng became a little confused and asked the system, how can the level of quirk be improved? The official explanation of the system, there are two ways. The first method is to draw the quirk experience fruit by the lottery system, which can increase the experience value of the quirk and achieve upgrade. The second method can accumulate quirk experience through self-training and continuous adaptation to the development of the quirk value. Chi Feng understands that, anyway, if you want to become stronger and make quirk more handy, you have to rely on the pitfall settings of the rescue system and save people to get it. Once you save the points, you can draw a lottery, which means you can improve your strength. In his previous life, Chi Feng was regarded as a half-Taoist priest. The other abilities of Taoist priests were not outstanding, but he had perseverance. Even if he could not save people, he could gradually sharpen his own quirk. Anyway, it is still very early. Brother Midoriya still has no quirk. He has two kinds of quirks. With such a comparison, Chi Feng's mind is much more balanced. In this world of darkness hidden in the light, Chi Feng's eyes revealed unprecedented firmness. He was unknown as a Hado man in the previous life. In this life, he has such a powerful quirk. According to his quirk pattern, he will definitely make a lot of trouble, something. Chapter 3 Inganum for Chi Feng, who is like an otaku, studying quirk at home is a very meaningful thing. So far, he has been familiar with the basic use of mind quirk and air manipulation. Opening his right hand, blue electric currents crackled in the air. Chi Feng thought, the blue electric current instantly hit the glass on the sink 5 meters away. Not surprisingly, the glass was smashed by the blue current, and the pieces fell towards the ground. Chi Feng waved his left hand, an invisible force appeared, and the glass floated up and flew towards the trash can. Looking at the hands with two different powers, Chi Feng smiled slightly. It's time to apply to study in an island country. There are a lot of powerful people in the island country. At present, the major forces are still in a relatively stable period. After the silt incident arrives, a new era will open the curtain. Chi Feng doesn't have to worry about not being able to speak Japanese in the island country. When he came to this world, The former owner of this body was proficient in 8 languages, and he was a top student in learning. These talents were naturally inherited by him who came here. Up. There is an organization in China that specializes in supporting families with difficulties, especially those with top academic performances like Chi Feng. They're happy to help. A trip to an island country is nothing more than a visa issue. Because of studying abroad, the visa time has been extended. The local department reminded Chi Feng that after going there, he can only support himself. After all, even if it is supported, it is impossible to spend every month. To be borne by them. Chi Feng patted his chest at the time, and promised that everything would be on his own after going there. I went through the formalities of studying abroad smoothly. After all, this world is different from his world. Some seemingly complicated things are not called complicated here. After checking the time, he set off on October 15th, which means that Chi Feng will set foot on the island in a week to see the world of the so-called heroes. Chi Feng is looking forward to this very much. Is there something that cannot be changed in the anime that he can change? Midoriya is the protagonist in this world, but he also has Chi Feng. As for who is strong and weak, it is not known. After all, he has not played against one for all. A week later, Chi Feng packed his bags and was already on the plane to the island country. These days he has saved a lot of money, basically from those who have quirks, all converted into Japanese currency. A full 160,000. A lot of yen is equivalent to 10,000 yuan. This money is enough for Chi Feng, and of course he has come to Hero's main field. He can't get money from any gangsters unscrupulously, so he can only keep a low profile. Chi Feng, who just got off the plane, was about to take a taxi to Pingchuan High School, but he remembered the explosion on the left. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Boom. Go away. I'm going to kill this guy. A roar came from the explosion. After the black smoke cleared, Chi Feng saw a man with huge arms standing on the ground and shivering, in front of the male. Does the Quirk use violence indiscriminately? Chi Feng touched his forehead. He had just got off the plane and encountered such a thing before he even left the airport. The island country is indeed a hero's land, even with such a high crime rate. Compared to China, Chi Feng stayed for more than a month, and he had never heard of a crime like this at the airport. As a result, he encountered him when he came here. Don't kill me, I will give you all my money and all of it. The greasy middle-aged man fell on the ground and said tremblingly, his eyes full of fear. This man with huge arms is obviously a strength quirk, but he can only enlarge his arms, allowing his arms to exert strength beyond ordinary people. I did everything according to what you said, but what about you? I want to leave here behind my back. You. Unforgivable. The man with his arms strengthened said more and more anger, and he raised his right hand and was about to fall. As a human being, Chi Feng doesn't like to be nosy at ordinary times, but he can't do anything he doesn't want to take care of by this rescue system. At this moment, he was accumulating strength secretly, approaching the violent man, wanting to make a hit. Just as Chi Feng was more than 10 meters away from the man, the moment his feet were ready to exert force, a silver figure quickly passed him, kicking the muscular man with his arms away. Catch the criminal. The man in silver armor waved his hand, then stretched out his right hand to the man who fell on the ground. Are you okay? Ooh, thank you so much, Ingnim. The middle-aged man burst into tears and fell on the silver-armored man for an instant. The muscular man with arms had been controlled by the police, and some people in the airport were attracted. When they saw Ingnim, they cheered. Heroes. Ingnim. Heroes. Ingnim. It's actually Ingnim. Someone in the crowd of onlookers who had just arrived exclaimed in surprise. Ingenim, real name. Ida Tenharu's famous Turbo Heroes, a large heroes office with 65 employees in Tokyo. It's Ida Tenya's brother. Chi Feng muttered silently. He didn't expect to meet the professional heroes Ingnim here. I have to say that the professional heroes is awesome and knocked out the muscular man with his arms. Although Chi Feng wanted to do it before, he was not sure that he could defeat the enemy with a single move. After all, his Thor's second quirk was only LV1. He believed that he could repel the opponent, but he was unlikely to stun with one move. Up. Please keep order and leave here. We will bring the criminals back and bring them to justice, Ingnim said righteously while evacuating the crowd. When the crowd was almost evacuated, Ingenim escorted the criminal into the police car. Before leaving, he glanced at Chi Feng, who was standing next to the vending machine. He was a little surprised and no longer restrained the muscular man with his arms. At that time, he felt that this young man seemed to be going to make a move. But now it seems that this young man is very ordinary. He can't feel what the other party's quirk is. Most people would not be nosy even if they had a quirk, let alone stop criminals, and this young man seemed to be different. After closing the car door with the sound of a police siren, Ingnim left. Chi Feng dropped a few coins into the beverage vending machine, and then dropped a bottle of Japanese orange beverage, drinking while walking towards the outside. After exiting the airport, there seemed to be discussions among the people about the previous Ingnim incident. It seemed that the people here admired the heroes very much, and it seemed that as long as the heroes appeared, there was nothing that could not be solved. The people in this country seem to be particularly open-minded. They are not frightened by criminal violence, nor frightened by the darkness. In the era of heroes, the darkness seems not worth mentioning. Only Chi Feng knows that the world is about to begin to change, and darkness is about to come. Chapter 4 First meeting with Suyu Chan. Chi Feng rented a 20 square meter room in Baoshu City. After finishing the room, he went out. The scenery of the island country is very beautiful. It is the first time that Chi Feng has come to a foreign country. He has only seen the scenery here in comics and animations. I have to say that the scenery here is comparable to that of anime. There is almost no rubbish on the street ground, the air is very clear, and the vehicles shuttle back and forth in an orderly manner, but people look a little cold and are doing their own things. No one cares about who you are when you walk on the street, they all have their own things to do, and they are in a hurry, from 9 to 5. Chi Feng came to a ramen restaurant and looked at the orange-red hue inside. He smiled and walked in. "Brother, what can I eat?" The fat master wearing a chef hat said with a smile, but he was not idle and took out a bowl of noodles that had just been made. "Asui Suyu." Chi Feng stared blankly at the fat master handing the bowl of freshly made noodles to a girl in the corner, and that girl was Asui Suyu. This frog girl who looks very kawaii. Chi Feng actually likes it very much, but this kind of like is just purely liking her character and people. Only a girl like Yaoyorozu, Chi Feng is very fond of. From time to time he can imagine Yaoyorozu in his room. "You called me just now?" Asui Suyu seemed to hear Chi Feng's doubts and turned to look at Chi Feng. How to explain this? Chi Feng has a headache. After all, the other party doesn't know him at all, but that's okay. Chi Feng looked at the boss and waved his hand and said, "Come to a bowl of bullfrog ramen." Before he could say a word, Chi Feng felt the cold eyes from Asui Suyu. "Oh, I forgot this stubble." Then Chi Feng scratched his head and said to the fat master, "I don't want the bowl just now, let's get some beef. Ramen it." Although the fat master is smiling on the surface, in fact he already has MMP in his heart, and the bullfrogs have been put down for you kid, you actually told me not to. But the business still needs to be done. The fat master smiled and cut the beef slices for Chi Feng. Asui Suyu watched Chi Feng approach her with cold eyes, then pulled a chair away and sat down. "Suyu sauce, it was mine just now, don't take it to heart," Chi Feng said with a grin. Asui Suyu suddenly became a little curious about why the boy knew her, and seemed to know that she was related to frogs. The slight anger in her heart towards this young man quickly disappeared. I don't know what was going on. She didn't have any malice towards this brutal and harmless young man in front of her. It seemed that the anger in her heart would disappear as long as the other party smiled. "Why do you know my name?" Asui Suyu asked suspiciously. She must know who this boy is. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Chi Feng smiled and said, "I was studying in Pingchuan Junior High School and I heard of you." "But I'm not from Hirakawa High School," Asui Suyu said with his eyes wide open. I have heard of you anyway." Chi Feng felt that this girl was a bit more real. "Do you know what school I am from?" Asui Suyu asked. Chi Feng really didn't know what kind of junior high school Asui Suyu was in, so he embarrassed him, but he suddenly remembered and said, "I know Suyu-chan will be a UA high school student in the future." Asui Suyu's eyes lit up suddenly, and she said with a little excitement in her cuteness, "How do you know that I'm going to UA high school? Are you going to go too? I don't know your name yet?" At this time, the fat master brought beef ramen noodles. "Two of you, take it slowly." Chi Feng picked up his chopsticks and ate 2 bites. "It's delicious. I have to say that the ramen in the island country is really good." He wanted to eat bullfrog ramen, which tasted even better, but he can't eat it in front of Asui Suyu. Wait for next time. "My name is Chi Feng, and I am in the 3rd year of middle school just like you. I am going to take the UA high school exam this summer. If we are lucky, we will be classmates. This is inevitable in UA high school." The luck he said was that he didn't know if he could enter the heroes department together. If it didn't work, he could go to class B. If he didn't work, he could go to other departments. Anyway, it's right to keep a low profile. But Chi Feng actually wants to be in the heroes subject to class. After all, he would be very happy to be with such a group of classmates. This is much better than his own view of Hato in the previous life. Asui Suyu seems to have regarded Chi Feng as a friend and stretched out a small palm. Then Chi Feng, let's work hard to get admitted to UA high school. Ha ha ha. Chi Feng put down his chopsticks, stretched out his hand and shook it with Asui Suyu, not to mention, this little hand is soft and very flexible. "Suyu-chan, please give me your advice." Asui Suyu also laughed. The people around him were a little bit inexplicable. The 2 junior high school students here had a chat so happily, and they said they were taking the UA high school. A high school is so easy to take the exam, it is really beautiful. But at this moment in Asui Suyu's heart, a warm current has already risen, and the handsome boy in front of him has given him a very good encouragement, which made her somewhat shaken heart stable. She decided to take the UA high school, and she must be in the heroes subject. The meal was very enjoyable. Chi Feng helped Suyu Sauce to pay for the ramen. Suyu Sauce pretended to be angry and said, "Why pay for me?" "Because we are friends." Chi Feng said cheerfully, not forgetting to add, "Next time you can also invite me to eat, and we are courteous." "Thank you, Chi Feng," Asui Suyu said suddenly. Seeing outside. Chi Feng dropped a word, turned his head and left. "Chi Feng Sauce, where do you live?" Asui Suyu suddenly shouted at Chi Feng's back. Chi Feng took a meal, thought about it all in a mess, and finally said, "See you in UA high school." In the end, the young man's back completely disappeared into the night. Asui Suyu stood there for a minute, then smiled. Okay, see you in UA High School. After returning home, Chi Feng patted his chest. Fortunately, I held back it. Although I don't have to cultivate in this life, I have to keep my virginity. This is how I was deceived by a woman in my previous life. However, Chi Feng thought for a while and felt that there is no need to be so cautious. This world is fundamentally different from the previous life, and these people are very emotional, and will not do that kind of deception. Regarding this, Chi Feng's heart is ready to move again, but Suyu-chan is a type of girl. Let it go. Chi Feng is afraid that he feels guilty. If it was a girl like Kendo Itsuka, Teacher Midnight and Yayorozu Momo, he would not feel guilty. What am I thinking about? Chi Feng patted his hot cheeks and almost got a nosebleed. But at this moment, he is more and more looking forward to Heroes High School. This legendary school for cultivating heroes, full of energetic classmates, come quickly. Chapter 5 Inoue Sakura Pingchuan Junior High is not far away from Aldera Junior High. Today is the day Chi Feng reported. He transferred directly to the third year of Junior High. Therefore, there is only less than 10 months before you will go to UA High School to take the exam. According to the development of the plot in the anime, Midoriya Izuku will soon meet the occasional mat. In fact, Chi Feng is also longing for the power of the occasional mat. One for all, I am everyone. This power comes from the inheritance of each generation, and the power seems to be getting stronger and stronger. But Chi Feng is content. He has two quirks comparable to one for all. For this, he does not want to interfere with Midoriya's life. The plot may change, but he still hopes that Midoriya will get one for all. After all, the protagonist of this world is Midoriya. He doesn't seem to change the trajectory of the world because of his appearance. The most important point is that the premise of all this is for him to cover the future of Chi Feng. As long as the young Midoriya is on the bright side, he is in the dark. Midoriya can't deal with villain, he can deal with it. Although it feels like wiping his butt, Chi Feng feels that there is nothing wrong with doing so. He doesn't want to be strangled before he grows up. It is impossible to verify how many people in the villain alliance are and how powerful they are. Although he knows that, but there may be more than that. The third grade, 8, class. This is Chi Feng's class. All the students seem to be very kind, and there is no such kind of contestant who can find faults in particular. Of course, if someone like this really bothers him, then he doesn't mind saving him. Male and female students in this class are relatively equal, but Chi Feng didn't find any more attractive ones among the girls. They all seemed to be passerby faces. After school, Chi Feng said goodbye to his classmates and prepared to go home. He was thinking about whether he should find a part-time job. After all, there are still 10 months to go to Heroes High School. It is indeed necessary. If he always eats ramen noodles with the 160,000 yen on him, it will definitely not last long. For international students under the age of 18, the island country does not allow part-time jobs to make money, but this world is not an island country in the original sense, so Chi Feng wants to give it a try. But what kind of job is good? He can't go to the hero's office yet, he must have a hero's license. It seems that he can only go to the service industry. Chi Feng made up his mind and left, put his school bag away when he got home, and ordered a bowl of bullfrog ramen at the ramen shop where he ate last night. After all, this time suyu sauce is not there, so he can taste it. After eating and drinking, Chi Feng looked for a job near his home, and eventually he was attracted by a convenience store. The convenience store was only 50 square meters in size, but the store manager was a girl in her 20s. She is very smart and has no lack of charm. Chi Feng immediately stepped in and smiled when he saw the beauty store manager. Hello, do you want to hire people? Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. The girl turned her head to see Chi Feng standing there with a smile, and she still said honorific words. She had a great feeling in her heart and smiled. We happen to be short of a finishing staff. Are you willing to do it? There is a play. There is really no age limit. Willing, Chi Feng blurted out. My name is Inoue Ying, please give me some advice in the future. Inoue Ying smiled like an angel, and Chi Feng's heart felt like she was watching. My name is Chi Feng, please give me some advice. Chi Feng nodded, so that his daily expenses are guaranteed. This is his first job in this world. Inoue Sakura is a college student. Her quirk is suitable for commercial purposes. She will be remembered after reading the accounts and the guests. Unfortunately, the UA high school she wanted to take the entrance examination did not admit her. This does not hinder Inoue Sakura's hard work and fighting spirit. Although she has been the store manager for a year, she likes this store very much. This year, Inoue Sakura is only 22 years old. Compared to most of her peers, she has to work harder and works hard every day. At this moment, Inoue Sakura is telling Chi Feng how to place snacks and items, as well as some precautions. Chi Feng listens very carefully, but from time to time, she looks at Inoue Sakura somewhere. I have to say that a girl of this age has developed, that's great, he really can't look away. Ahem. Chi Feng looked a little red, and he subconsciously shifted his attention. Mr. Chi Feng, what's the matter with you? Inoue Ying found that Chi Feng's face was abnormal, and immediately asked caringly. It's okay, it's just that your mouth is a little dry. Chi Feng casually made up a reason. Inoue Ying immediately went to help Chi Feng pour water. Chi Feng felt much better after drinking a few sips of water, at least his face didn't blush anymore. For this kind of cute Chi Feng classmate, Inoue Ying still liked it a little. The two quickly exchanged ideas, and they also had a good time chatting about some work matters. In the evening, Inoue Ying looked at Chi Feng, who was sorting out snacks in a daze. She once had a cute brother like this, but because of a car accident, she could never see each other again. After so many years, she has an unforgettable one in her heart. When I saw Chi Feng today, I felt like my brother was back, so she made an exception to let Chi Feng come to work here. Although the island country did not expressly prohibit students from being able to work part-time, the boss who recruited Chi Feng privately knew that it would definitely be unhappy. Inoue Ying even wondered, did she do something wrong? Should she explain to Chi Feng, or let him not use it tomorrow? Sister Ying, is this Orihiro konjac placed here? Chi Feng asked, holding a purple bag of snacks in his hand. Yes, Chi Feng is really smart. Inoue Ying smiled. She decided at this moment and decided to keep Chi Feng. No matter what the boss said about her, she would not regret it. Convenience stores have monitors. Chi Feng can't blatantly use air to control the Quirk. In fact, Quirk can be used for things that are not right for people. However, in order to hide himself, Chi Feng must be low-key. To be honest, he is a bit weak after he has not done this kind of work in his previous life. A convenience store with a size of 50 square meters is not too big or too small. Originally, these tasks were done by Inoue Sakura alone every day. Chi Feng discovered at this moment that Inoue Sakura's slender hands had calluses. Seeing this callus, Chi Feng feels distressed. Such a beautiful girl has to do the work of a man. She holds two positions and works day and night. The islanders are actually like this. Sometimes they are forced to do it like this. They have to do it like this when they are trapped in their lives. Otherwise, more people will grab your job. Sister Ying, I'll go home first, and see you tomorrow night. At the end of get-off work time, Chi Feng said goodbye to Inoue Ying. He basically finished the work here, so the rest is nothing to Inoue Ying. Take this to eat, sister asked you. Inoue Ying handed the Glico biscuit in her hand to Chi Feng. I can't ask for this. Chi Feng quickly refused. The Glico biscuits cost a lot of yen. How could he be willing to ask Inoue Ying to eat this? If you don't want Sister Ying, you'll be angry, Inoue said with an aura, looking very cute. Alright, I will accept it. Chi Feng took the Glico cookies and went home. Inoue Sakura watched the warmth surging in Chi Feng's back, tears bursting out of her eyes. He is so much like Inoue. Chapter 6 The First Shot. Chi Feng didn't think about Inoue Ying, and didn't know what Inoue Ying thought of him. He is now at home. He spent this time at school and at work, and the time passed quickly, and in a blink of an eye came the silt incident. A huge explosion and fire light illuminated the sky. Chi Feng was resting at home today. He rushed to the scene as soon as he heard the movement. He wanted to find out if this was a silt incident. The crowd rushed to the explosion site. Chi Feng suddenly saw All Might, who was thin and thin, among the walking crowd. It seemed that this was really a silt incident. So Bakugo is in trouble. I take this opportunity to see if the world is the same as in the anime. Sometimes it's just a parallel world, and some environmental and human factors will change the trajectory. Take the child hostage. In the crowded street alleys, Death Red Fist, Kamui Woods, Mount Lady, Fire Buster, etc. are all present. In this environment, Mount Lady is not good at fighting, and Fire Buster is also not good at fighting. Death clenched his fists tightly, watching the green silt monster continuously devouring the child, suddenly violent. What a despicable. His powerful punch hit the mud like it hit cotton, and he couldn't exert any power at all, and his right hand suddenly plunged in and couldn't be pulled out for a while. What is this? Can't catch it. Mud stretched out his tentacles and whipped to punch Death Kai Fist flying, and Death Kai Fist hit the rolling shutter door to form a hole. Everything happened the same as in the anime. Chi Feng watched quietly from the side of the crowd. Naturally, he couldn't show the limelight on this occasion. These professional heroes would find a way. Don't come near me. Mudwhip stopped the professional heroes who wanted to go forward. Oh. Asshole. Bakugo Katsuki roared, and heat exploded in his hands again, causing another violent explosion. Everyone covered their faces with their hands, and a heat wave blew through, but nothing changed the status quo. What a great power, it really hit the jackpot. Mud laughed excitedly. As long as you have this quirk and power, you can find a guy to get revenge. The silt swallowed Bakugo Katsuki more frantically. Everyone panicked, and it seemed that there was no way to use it. Mount Lady stood awkwardly outside the street. She could only move around 2 lanes or more, which was obviously only 1 lane wide. Kamui Woods can only help those trapped in the flames. He is not good at dealing with the explosive flames. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Slimy can't catch it at all, and the hostage with excellent quirk is still struggling to resist. Thanks to him, that guy became the center of the explosion. These 3 factors made the situation extremely difficult to deal with. Death Shaquan analyzed constantly. Mud seemed to notice Bakugo Katsuki's irritability, and he swiped his whip, punching Death away. He must speed up to swallow the boy. None of the professional heroes present was good at dealing with the problems here, and it became difficult for a while. Just then Chi Feng saw the thin All Might running over. leaning on a pole and breathing heavily, as if he had no more energy. Chi Feng knew what he was thinking at the moment. The silt was removed when Midoriya hugged his leg, which led to such a situation now, but now he has no strength to support his transformation. It's shameful, it's really shameful. All Might grabbed his clothes, and there was a huge scar hidden under the clothes, which was a little painful. Huh? Midoriya is here too. Chi Feng found that Midoriya had also come here, and seemed surprised that Bakugo Katsuki had encountered such a thing. Chi Feng is like a bystander. In the crowd, he constantly hears people talking about All Might. Why hasn't All Might appeared yet? Is there no professional heroes who can save it? But All Might could only be silent with a black face and painful self-blame in his heart. As a symbol of peace, he should have come forward when the masses were in danger. But now he can only watch from the sidelines, there is no way. At this moment, Midoriya Izuku suddenly pushed away from the crowd and rushed towards the mud and Bakugo Katsuki. Everyone was shocked. What does this boy want to do? Is he going to die? Idiot, stop, don't go there, Death roared with a red fist. He didn't expect that someone would rush over at this time. That kid? Mud was surprised. Bakugo Katsuki looked weakly at Midoriya Izuku who was running towards him, and muttered, smelly for a long time. At this moment, there was some warmth in his heart, and the smelly Jew who had been bullied by him now rushed out desperately to save him. However, at the next moment, the mud actually tired Midoriya Izuku, and controlled both Bakugo Katsuki and him. It's almost done, and it's done right away. Mud laughed excitedly, looking at these helpless and frightened people. His heart was full of deformity. No, this is different from the direction of the plot. It seems that my appearance has caused subtle changes in some places. Chi Feng looked at the weak occasional mat, but he didn't mean to rush forward. If he followed the plot, All Might had already transformed and stood in front of Midoriya Izuku. But now he is constantly blaming and regretting. All Might did not give up, but constantly tried to transform, but it seemed that the speed was too slow. After he became better, Bakugo Katsuki and Midoriya Izuku would have died long ago. No, I can't wait any longer. Chi Feng moved his gaze and walked to a corner, staring at the excitement of the silt, and suddenly with his left hand, an invisible force spread instantly. Suddenly, the mud felt a little difficult to breathe, but it was not that it was unable to breathe, but it only slowed down the speed of swallowing Bakugo Katsuki. What's the matter? Mud's eyes kept scanning in the crowd, wanting to know who the trick was. Sweat gradually appeared on Chi Feng's forehead. After all, his current air control level is still very low, and he can't do it for a long time. It can only make the mud feel a little difficult to breathe. Just when Chi Feng was about to be unable to hold on, a figure quickly rushed towards the mud. All Might finally turned into a success. Sorry boy, I'm late. As All Might spoke, he had already hit the mud with a punch. All Might. Mud's eyes were full of anger. No matter when it was All Might would come out to disturb him, but he hated that he couldn't compete with it at present. Detroit smash. Boom. The silt was blown away directly by a fist, scattered into several pieces and hit the wall. A round of wind swept towards the sky, wind and leftover clouds. Bakugo Katsuki and Midoriya Izuku fell to the ground, appearing very weak. Suddenly dark clouds spread in the sky. All Might's punch changed the weather, and raindrops fell on everyone, as if everything was not very real. The rain extinguished the fire, and the police also rushed to catch the scattered silt. The crowd cheered, and there seemed to be nothing that All Might could not do as a symbol of peace. Chi Feng breathed a sigh of relief, and the rain covered him. At this time, no one knew whether it was sweat or rain on his face. Chapter 7 Shigaraki Tamura. Save points plus 100. The system reminder sounded. Chi Feng's somewhat weak body suddenly felt full of vitality. Unexpectedly, this sludge incident also earned 100 salvation points. It seems that this sludge has been beaten and scared. It happened to be shot by himself, so the points were also counted on his head. In this way, no matter what bad person you encounter in the future, as long as he secretly intervenes in it, the salvation points of the opponent after being subdued will be counted on his head. Now he can draw another prize, but he has to wait until he gets home. All Might stood among the people, bathed in the rain, standing blankly, a trace of heat forming a white mist floating from his body to the sky. He knew that his time was up. Aha, everyone is all right, right? Then leave quickly, goodbye. After All Might said this, Yu Guang glanced at Midoriya Izuku who fell on the ground, and seemed to decide something in his heart. The legs suddenly exerted force, and the person rushed up into the sky like a cannonball, disappearing from everyone's sight. Chi Feng didn't stay long, turned around and was about to leave. Suddenly, out of the corner of his eye, he seemed to see a very familiar person and immediately followed. This person was wrapped in a black robe, and he couldn't tell who it was from his back, but he was wrapped in a black robe in broad daylight, and he was in a dark corner. He was definitely not a good person. Gradually there was less crowds on the streets, and the people in black robes walked into the sparsely populated alleys. Chi Feng didn't dare to follow too closely. After all, his current strength is still very weak, and can only be said to be compared to those students who are about to enter Heroes be stronger. However, players such as Bakugo Katsuki, Shoto Todoroki, and Tokiyami Fumikage are a little bit confused. After all, they have not played against each other, and I don't know what the outcome will be after the actual battle. But Chi Feng understands that these classmates cannot be his opponents no matter how powerful they are. After all, he was born as a cultivator, and he can resist with his own strength even without Quirk, not to mention the two powerful quirks of Thor's return and air manipulation. There are many definitions of Quirk, the same fire attribute, but the name of the quirk is different. Some are called flame birds, some are called burning flames, and they can also be blazing flames. For example, Endeavor's Hell Flame is a typical powerful fire attribute quirk. It can be said that when One for All and All for One are not born, his status is detached. Unless the water attribute quirk with the same powerful strength appears, Endeavor will naturally be willing to go down. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Finally, the black-robed man walked into a dark area around the corner. Chi Feng did not continue to follow, but stood at the corner and played with his mobile phone. Although the space between the houses is dark, some characters can still be seen. The black-robed man gradually took off his hood. What Chi Feng caught his eye was a white hand, grabbing his face. Sure enough, Chi Feng can tell who it is at first glance. This feature is too easy to distinguish. Who else can there be without Shigaraki Tamura? The white hand on his face seemed to be of great significance to him. Shigaraki Tamura seemed to call his hand father, and did not know what he intended. I thought that Muddy Mud had two problems, but it turned out to be rubbish. I'm really disappointed. Shigaraki Tamura scratched his chin, looking a little impatient. If you made a move before, you can take away the sludge. When he completely swallows the young man with an excellent quirk, we will have more power. In the shadows, a cloud of purple-black mist appeared, if there is no such thing. Forget it, now is not the time for us to expose. Kurogiri, take me back. Shigaraki Tamura seemed to figure it out. There were still some claw marks on his chin. He seemed to scratch his chin whenever he thought or was upset. Chi Feng didn't say a word in the whole process, and he didn't dare to move. The two giants of the Villain Alliance are here. He is a person who has just owned a quirk and is not an opponent at all. Kurogiri seemed to hesitate for a moment. If Shigaraki Tamura had just taken a shot, he could just teleport all of them away. Even if All Might came later, it would be useless and could not catch them. It's just a little strange. I felt a strange fluctuation at the scene. It seems to be a quirk I haven't seen before. Kurogiri reminded him in a low voice, waiting for Shigaraki Tamura's response. Any suspicious person? Shigaraki Tamura asked. I haven't found it yet. Because of All Might, the power of the quirk is weakened on rainy days, and the other party seems to be a supernatural quirk. It is difficult to detect who it is. Kurogiri analyzed. In this case, let's go back first. Maybe it's just a little ant? Shigaraki Tamura smiled, arms open to the sky. Soon, the world will hear of my Villain Alliance. It will be terrified and happy. The next moment Kurogiri rolled up Shigaraki Tamura and disappeared in place. It seemed that there was no one here, and it was terribly quiet. Chi Feng put his phone back in his pocket, turned around and looked at the dark alley, Villain Alliance. Maybe they don't know that the world has undergone subtle changes. The biggest variable is not Midoriya Izuku, nor All Might, but Chi Feng. It's just that he must keep a low profile at this time. Before he grows up, he may be just like Shigaraki Tamura said, just a little ant. Since no useful news was heard, Chi Feng went back the same way. After I got home, the silt incident had been broadcast on the news. The cause and effect were very detailed, especially the picture of Bakugo Katsuki was very clear. If Chi Feng smiled meaningfully, this may be the event that Bakugo wants to erase the most in history. It is simply black history. It seems that many people have laughed at Bakugo on this matter, but Bakugo's temper cannot be remarked by others. Anything he hears about himself is blown up. Chi Feng leaned on the small sofa and pondered for a while, then suddenly said, the system. The lottery. A roulette appeared in his mind, and it spun quickly, and Chi Feng's mood also revolved with the roulette. Eventually the pointer stopped, and the sky was clear. Congratulations to host for getting a quirk promotion pill, plus a random reward for practicing Chi pill. This system is too user-friendly. What do I want? Chi Feng jumped up cheerfully. The quirk upgrade pill is what he needs now. After all, his strength is so low, he just meets a more powerful villain. I want GG, now it's fine. After eating this quirk upgrade pill, I should be able to contend with some small ones. But this Chi pill is very strange. It seems that the system knows that he can cultivate, and I don't know whether this stuff is reliable. No matter what, eat the quirk promotion pill first. Chi Feng threw the quirk promotion pill into the mouth without saying a word, and then praised, the entrance is soft. The first line of throat. Chapter 8 Inoue Sakura's Love Bento Rental House. As Chi Feng ate the quirk promotion pill, he was hot all over at this moment, and seemed to have inexhaustible power. Please host select the quirk to be upgraded Thor's Return Air Manipulation. I choose Thor's Return. For the current Chi Feng, the strength on the bright side is more important. The air control may be stronger than Thor's Return in some respects, but after all, this is a quirk that cannot be seen. Maybe one day his strength can be as good as All Might in its heyday, and he can use it with integrity. The return of Thor LV2. Congratulations to host. Thor is back. Quirk successfully upgraded LV2. Current experience 0200. Chi Feng waved his right hand, and a blue electric current with the thickness of the baby's arm quickly passed through the stool. The electric current hit the ground and formed a scorched black. The power is good. Chi Feng nodded in satisfaction, and then put his attention on the chi pill again. Although he has tried to practice every day for the past few months, after all, this world is dominated by Quirk, and his spiritual energy seems to be very thin. If he only practiced in his free time, he probably wouldn't have developed it when Chi Feng was 30 years old, base. But now that he has this chi pill, it's different, maybe he can advance his cultivation level earlier. After eating chi pill, Chi Feng felt that the aura in the air became richer, and the spiritual power in the body also felt a lot. He immediately sat cross-legged and began to absorb the aura of heaven and earth to strengthen himself. Chi Feng didn't know how long he had been practicing. He didn't open his eyes until he heard someone knock on the door, but it was dark. Sister Ying, why did you come today? What Chi Feng didn't expect was that Inoue Ying came to him. Zhao Feng, don't look at what time it is now. I haven't seen you go downstairs. Haven't you eaten yet? Inoue Sakura was a little anxious, wearing a broken dress and carrying a basket in her hand, looking at Chi Feng happily. Chi Feng turned his head and glanced at the clock hanging on the wall, only to realize that the Fujiwara convenience store where Inoue Sakura was located was closed at 10 o'clock in the evening. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Moreover, the Fujiwara convenience store is less than 100 meters below Chi Feng's house. Usually, Chi Feng can see Inoue Sakura in the convenience store downstairs. No wonder she will come to Chi Feng's house today. Maybe Inoue Ying found that Chi Feng hadn't come out since returning home, and hadn't seen the takeaway boy go upstairs, so naturally he didn't eat. And just after the silt incident today, Inoue Ying can easily think of Chi Feng's feelings. People of Chi Feng's age have experienced too little, and the current society is very turbid. Inoue Ying is thinking that today's silt incident has brought a big blow to Chi Feng, causing the teenager to become a little autistic. It doesn't mean that staying at home is always safe. You have to think about everything from multiple angles. If you keep going around in circles, you will never get out. Sister Ying, sit down first. I'll pour you a glass of water. Chi Feng scratched his head and closed the door. Inoue Ying looked at the dark room and a glowing computer, which made him think of something wrong. Good stuff. Zhao Feng, are you okay? Inoue Sakura asked worriedly after sitting down. Chi Feng turned on the light at this time and said casually, it's okay. Inoue Sakura wanted to continue to inquire, and suddenly saw a dark trace on the ground. Zhao Feng, you said to Sister Ying, did you do something stupid? How could there be a dark spot on the ground? Chi Feng was a little embarrassed. How could he explain this? He told Inoue Ying that he was awakening by the speed quirk. At that time, he said that the 100-meter sprint speed was many seconds faster than ordinary people. It's okay, Sister Ying, don't ask anymore. You're tired enough to take care of the convenience store every day, and now you are still worried about my affairs. Chi Feng sighed and said, you go back to bed early. I will go to work tomorrow. Inoue Ying stared at Chi Feng for a minute, and when Chi Feng felt all hairy, she said, then you eat this bento, and I will go back after eating. Chi Feng opened the basket and found that it was a bento shaped like a heart. Inoue Sakura is really a girl. This bento seems to be a favorite of girls. Inoue Sakura blushed a little. At the beginning, his brother Inoue Shang liked the bento she made the most, and it was also in the shape of a love heart. But now he can't eat it, so this wish Inoue Ying is pinned on Chi Feng. She saw the shadow of her brother Inoue Shang in Chi Feng, so she cared and cherished this time. Seeing Chi Feng eating very happily, Inoue Ying smiled contentedly. Sister Ying, you look so good when you smile. Chi Feng suddenly said. A piece of meat fell out of his mouth, which looked a little funny. Inoue Sakura covered her mouth and smiled for a while. I like to eat sakura and make it for you every day. This time Chi Feng has a headache. What is it about letting a young girl cook for herself every day? You must know that his true age is much older than Inoue Ying, but now it looks like he is a child. After sending Inoue Sakura away, Chi Feng leaned on the sofa, felt his own spiritual power, and found that he was already at the first level of Chi training. Originally, according to his estimation, it would take at least 1 year to reach the first level of Chi training, and it would take half a year at the earliest. But eating this Chi pill directly shortened the process of 7 or 8 months, and it was too heaven-defying. If this kind of Chi training pill comes with a few more, he breaks through to the 4th level of Chi training, that is, in the middle of Chi training. His strength can already be comparable to some bosses in the firm. You can use wind blade, fireball, water polo, light power, etc. in the 4th level of Chi training, which will give him more assurance in actual combat. Calculate the time. In a few days, Brother Midoriya will start the devilish training. Chi Feng said meaningfully, he is much luckier than Midoriya, but he is also more responsible. One for all means that I am everyone, but why not Chi Feng? This rescue system is the best interpretation of me for everyone. If he saves the world, all the great achievements of the world will be added to him, forming a unique personality brilliance, which is more significant than the symbol of peace, all might. It can be said that Chi Feng will be a man who will carry the world in the future. Then the brother Midoriya is naturally the right-hand man of the man who carries the world. As for players like Bakugo Katsuki, Shoto Todoroki, Tokiyami Fumikage, naturally, they have to take care of them. They're all good classmates. Chi Feng thought about more and more beautiful, and fell asleep with saliva from the corner of his mouth. The moonlight outside the window is like frost. No one knows. At this moment, on the roof of Chi Feng's house, there is a man with a sword on his waist, looking at the city against the moonlight, the red silk drifting in the wind, and the smell of blood follows. The sword disappeared after it was sheathed, and there was a bloodless man lying on the ground. Everything is. For the right society. Chapter 9 Heroes Academy Prelude. Time flies quickly, and in a blink of an eye, tomorrow is the entrance exam for the first year of Heroes Academy. Chi Feng has been practicing very hard for the past 7 or 8 months, and has helped many people. Therefore, the current salvation points are almost reaching 1,000, which is close to 200 points. The reason why the lottery is not drawn is because Chi Feng discovered that there is a shop in the rescue system. This shop sells food, weapons, medicine, clothes. Chi Feng liked a spear weapon, and a multifunctional outfit. The two add up to 1,000 salvation points, so he has been saving all this time. Inoue Sakura makes lunch for her almost every day. Originally, Chi Feng didn't have the kind of feelings between sister and brother to Inoue Sakura. At first, part of the reason for going to the convenience store to do part-time work was Inoue Sakura's purpose. Now it's not there anymore. Chi Feng really treats Inoue Ying as his sister, because he sees the doting and selfless care in Inoue Ying's eyes. This is not the gaze and attitude of an older person, but he really treats him as his younger brother. So Chi Feng naturally regards her as her sister. He even buys cakes for Inoue Ying for the money he earns from part-time jobs every month, and Inoue Ying also likes to eat them very much. In addition, Chi Feng often goes to Duobuchang Waterfront Park to observe Midoriya exercising, but All Might is there to supervise him. He can't get too close. After all, the strong are very sensitive. Midoriya really worked very hard and spent every day in sweat. Chi Feng really felt Midoriya's determination to become stronger. Number Quirk, you were just a Heroes fan, but more like a Heroes than anyone in the room. Because of this sentence, Midoriya Izuku's heart was released and recognized, and his desire to be recognized was ignited here, so he worked harder. Ordinary people work 10 times, and he works 100 times and 1,000 times. Chi Feng was deeply moved, so he also went to the rooftop to practice every morning, but he found a pool of bloodline on the rooftop at first, but he didn't know who left it. Later, I heard news of the dead, but the reasons were blocked. There are people dying in this world every moment, and people are born every moment. Chi Feng can't manage so much. He just wants to live well with Sister Ying and practice well. The next day, Inoue Ying sorted Chi Feng's school bag and said, "Today is an important day, you can't be careless." Chi Feng nodded, and Inoue Ying went on to say, "I didn't get into the Heroes Academy at the beginning. Now this regret is done by you. I believe you will succeed." Looking at Inoue Ying's firm eyes, Chi Feng gave her a hug. Before Inoue Ying could feel the temperature in her arms, Chi Feng had already gone far. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. This kid, really? Inoue Sakura laughed. She was very happy. The location of Heroes Academy is a relatively remote area with no buildings around it. Almost this area is the site of Heroes Academy. There are many students on the road, more than Chi Feng imagined. After all, this time of year is the most competitive time for Heroes Academy. Looking at the huge facade in front of him, Chi Feng suddenly felt a sense of pride in his heart. It is indeed the Heroes Academy, so majestic. He had never seen such a magnificent building in his previous life. A single facade stands here like a mountain, as solid as a rock like King Fudo Ming. The students were jammed at the door. When the door opened, everyone rushed in. Chi Feng slowly followed. Now it's useless to get in. You have to listen to Present Mike talking there for a long time. Chi Feng sauce. A familiar voice sounded. Chi Feng turned his head to look. Asui Suyu stood there and smiled and looked at himself. It turned out to be Suyu sauce. You are on time today. Chi Feng came to her with a smile and touched her cute head. Asui Suyu seemed a little shy. Let's go in, Chi Feng-chan. You have to work hard. We will definitely be admitted to Heroes High School. Okay. I also believe that Suyu-chan can be admitted to Heroes High School. Chi Feng nodded and entered the school building with Asui Suyu. Almost thousands of people came to take the test. This does not include people from all over the country in designated cities. So many people Chi Feng didn't see the people from Heroes A class. They could only look at the heads in the crowd. Everyone entered the classroom one after another to listen to Present Mike's speech. Suddenly Chi Feng felt his arm touch something soft. It was still very elastic, and he turned his head to look and startled him. Yayorozu Momo. This goddess-level figure that Chi Feng has always liked, he actually touched that part. It was simply. Yayorozu Momo's face was a little dark at the moment. She didn't realize who had touched her. There were too many people, and the positions changed several times. She didn't realize that Chi Feng did a good job. However, now Chi Feng only feels cold and whistling behind his back. He doesn't dare to turn his head to admire the beautiful face of Yayorozu Momo. Now he wants to be a mouse, wherever he goes in the dark. If Yayorozu-chan finds out that he did this, he will definitely be left out in the next class. Okay, this is much worse than Mineta Minoru's end. Mineta Minoru is so small, it seems that there is no threat, just a little grape. But he is such a big person, and his height is similar to Shoto Todoroki. If this is discovered, he is definitely an exclusive role in Class A. Suddenly Chi Feng saw Suyu Sauce's faint eyes. It's over, Suyu-chan saw it. Chi Feng cried out in his heart, and now I can only pray that Suyu-chan will not say anything. Dear listeners, welcome to my live broadcast today. Everybody say hey. Present Mike raised his ears, put his hand on his ears and waited for something. After a few seconds passed, there was no sound in the venue. He reluctantly said, "It's boring." Chi Feng smiled. Present Mike is really exactly the same as in the anime. Maybe other traversers will stand up and shout at this time, but he won't. Chi Feng is well aware of the importance of strength. As the saying goes, the little one hides in the wild and the big one hides in the city. The principles of these ancients are correct. Chi Feng is now hiding. Present Mike kept talking, and Chi Feng didn't pay much attention to it. After all, he understood all these processes, so he didn't pay much attention to it. Now he has seen many classmates in his seat, such as Kirishima Ejiro, Kaminari Denki, Ojiro Mashirao, Mezo Shoji, and the invisible girl, classmate Hagakure Toru. I have to say that when the characters in the anime return to reality, they are indeed very good looking. The people here don't seem to have skin problems. Either they are very white or very dark. In short, there are no wrinkles on their faces. Look, it looks like a doll. I have a question, can you bring it up? At this moment, Ida Tenya stood up straight-heartedly. Chapter 10. The assessment starts with Ida Tenya's question. Time passed. By the way, the curly classmate over there. Ida Tenya suddenly turned around and pointed to Midoriya Izuku. Midoriya Izuku pointed his finger at himself with a dazed expression. Did he mean to say me? You've been whispering there since just now. It's too casual. If you are going to visit the mountains and play, please leave here immediately. Ida Tenya said loudly, without giving Midoriya Izuku any face. For a while, most people looked at Midoriya Izuku. Midoriya Izuku covered his mouth and whispered aggrievedly, "I'm sorry." Okay. Classmates in exam room 7111, your question is very good, thank you. Present Mike said with a thumbs up. After Ida Tenya sat down, he then introduced the exam room and mode rules. Chi Feng hadn't noticed the location of Midoriya Izuku, but he saw it after Ida Tenya said it. The green curls are very conspicuous. At this moment, the little hero's Midoriya lowered his head and didn't know what he was thinking, while Uraraka Ochako on the side was comforting. Although the two are not familiar with each other, they can't stop the CP. After half an hour of introduction and arrangement, Present Mike finally finished speaking. Everyone broke up in a rush and went to the exam room to prepare for the exam. The assessment is undoubtedly defeating 3 types of numerous imaginary enemies, and corresponding scores are set according to their respective strategy difficulty. Use their respective quirks to defeat imaginary enemies and earn points. There is also a big organ in each venue, that is, a giant imaginary enemy. If you encounter such an enemy, you have to run away. But Chi Feng knows that the giant imaginary enemy mechanism is totally another help sub-question. It is the true nature of heroes to help others with the heart of heroes in times of crisis. He didn't intend to grab this special rescue point with Midoriya. After all, Midoriya's punch was 100% powerful, and it was possible to knock down the giant imaginary enemy. And his Thor's return is currently at LV2 level. Even if he uses his full strength, it is impossible to defeat the giant imaginary enemy unless he hits a weak point. Chi Feng just wants to get more ordinary points, as long as he can enter the Heroes A class. A high school, Heroes section, practice venue B. All the students taking the exam gathered here. There were not many people in the exercise venue B, only 100 people. Chi Feng was not very conspicuous in the crowd. I have to work hard. Midoriya said in front of the huge door, I will accept all might, and the results obtained in the past 10 months will be displayed without reservation. I must be the heroes I dream of. Midoriya, a little nervous, raised his hands and patted his face, calming himself. At this moment, the corner of Midoriya's eyes saw a boy smiling at him. This feeling was very strange. It seemed that the other party could see through all his thoughts. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Chi Feng smiled at Midoriya. If anyone knows Midoriya best here, besides Bakugo Katsuki, it is of course he. It's just that Midoriya feels weird at the moment. The other party's smile is very meaningful, but he still smiled back. Maybe everyone will be classmates in the future. Chi Feng looked away and began to observe the other players. Many of them were very strange. These people seemed to be just a foil, and there was basically nothing left in the assessment. Don't you see that girl is concentrating? Ida Tenya grabbed Midoriya Izuku's shoulder and said with a serious face. What do you want to do? Are you here to take the exam to interfere with others? No, it's not like that. Midoriya quickly defended, and the eyes of the people around were immediately attracted. That guy is the one who almost fell at the school gate before. A guy who cringes as soon as he is warned. The bald man with a scar on his head joked. At least one is missing a competitor, right? A boy with a sharp haircut disdainfully asked. Most people's thoughts are really lucky. Midoriya lowered his head in embarrassment. Although he always encouraged himself and said that he could do it, he was a little timid when he really started. Look down on people. Chi Feng snorted, and looked at these self-righteous guys with his arms around him. He couldn't bear that every passerby actually laughed at Midoriya so much. Who is this guy? Someone immediately noticed Chi Feng, who looked aloof. It looks very arrogant, I don't know how strong it is. Don't be scared to pee in your pants at that time. A student with a sharp-mouthed monkey cheek said playfully. However, Ida Tenya's gaze lingered on Chi Feng. He felt that this classmate was very unusual and intuitive. Chi Feng didn't pay attention to these people anymore, but Midoriya cast a kind look at him. It seems that the development is good. Brother Midoriya is very kind to me. Chi Feng smiled happily. Hi, start. Present Mike shouted from the high platform. What's the matter? Actually, there will be no preparation for a countdown. Run, run. Present Mike spun with one hand and stretched out his arms and said, the game has already started. Chi Feng moved his feet, followed the crowd directly into the open gate, turned his head and glanced at Midoriya. This guy was still in a daze. After entering the exercise venue, Chi Feng directly looked for a direction where no one was there. He just wanted to defeat the imaginary body alone, and didn't want to take credit with others. He hadn't run far yet. A green imaginary body emerged from the ground. Chi Feng waved his right hand and a blue arc shot from his palm, easily piercing the imaginary body's head. It's not over yet. 7 or 8 imaginary bodies came out from the corner, upstairs, and the street. Chi Feng greeted him without saying a word. These are all points. The rest of the students are also working hard for their own results. Ida Tenya is good at using legs, Uraraka Ochako is good at weightlessness, and Aoyama Yuga is good at using lasers. This examination room is basically the same classmates. Other players are about to face elimination, or they are assigned to other departments. At this time, Chi Feng has scored 50 points. He is not going to continue to get points. Now it is safe for him to enter the top 10 with this score. Boom. A loud noise came, and the building closest to Chi Feng collapsed. Chi Feng jumped out of the rubble, and a huge organ appeared on the ruins. This is the organ of each exercise examination room, the ultimate boss. Chi Feng didn't mean to fight, and slowly evacuated with a crowd of panicked people. Others ran fast, but he slowly ran away. The plot is similar to that in the anime. Uraraka Ochako was crushed by the stone and his legs could not move, while Midoriya looked at the huge machine in fear, making it difficult to make a decision for a while. Don't hesitate, you already have the answer in your heart. Chi Feng looked at Midoriya and said, then he ran towards the exit. Chapter 11 The Dark Horse. Chi Feng. Suddenly, Midoriya's heart was like a mirror. Although the tears in his eyes were still flowing, a flame burned in his heart, and this flame went through his whole body. He suddenly jumped up at his feet and rushed towards the huge machine. His right hand gathered strength, even the clothes were torn apart, but the firm eyes resolutely decided, I want to lift my anus and close my abdomen, and then shout in my heart. Smash! With a sudden punch, the core of the huge machine was instantly cracked, and a cloud of white mist erupted in the air, declaring the power of this punch. Everyone looked at this scene in shock, and the seemingly timid Midoriya actually broke out such a powerful force in this situation. Is it courage or responsibility? Midoriya felt like he was going to die during the fall. He had no sensation in his right hand, and was drifting in the wind like a puddle of mud. Just when he was about to fall to the ground, Uraraka Ochako barely caught Midoriya with no gravity. Saved. Midoriya let out a sigh of relief and slumped to the ground. Only then did Uraraka Ochako free up energy to remove the heavy objects on her body, and stepped forward to care about Midoriya. In Midoriya's heart, a man reminded him. Looking at the crowd, Chi Feng's back was infinitely magnified. It seemed that this man knew him from the beginning and knew that he would take action from the beginning. Even if he breaks his hand or his foot, he will stick to what he chooses and never give up. The practical test is over. The overall results were announced on the big screen. First place. Bakugo Katsuki 772nd place, Kirishima Eijiro 3935. Third place. Uraraka Ochako 2845. Fourth place, Shiozaki 3632. Fifth place. Kendo Itsuka 2546. Place, Ida Tenya 529. Seventh place. Midoriya Izuku 0608. Place, Chi Feng 5010. Ninth place. Tetsu 4910. 10th place, Tokiyami Fumikage 4710. 11th place. Everyone is talking about this result. The first place Bakugo Katsuki is undoubtedly the hottest topic, followed by the alternative score of Midoriya Izuku. Some people also talked about Chi Feng, because Chi Feng is from China, so they have a new understanding of Chinese people. This player called Chi Feng is very unusual. In the quiet observation room, the marksman said lightly, which attracted the attention of some teachers. What to say? I feel that this Chi Feng's performance is not outstanding. It seems that his shots are very few, Cement Secretary said with his arms. Didn't you find that the locations he went to were very remote, and he gradually approached the center until he got a score of 40 or 50 points? The most important point is that his quirk is very strong, the sharpshooter analyzed. Yes, this kid's quirk seems to be the most overbearing in all elemental systems. At this time, Aizawa Shota said casually, his eyes seemed to be half squinted forever. What quirk? Teacher Midnight asked. Thunder attribute quirk. The specific power has yet to be verified. Aizawa Shota's eyes narrowed. It's actually a thunder attribute quirk. We don't seem to have heard of this kind of quirk. There seems to be a player named Kaminari Denki, he is just electricity. Isn't it much different from thunder? There was a little star in the eyes of Teacher Midnight, as if looking at him. When it comes to something that interests her, it's normal. In addition to talking about Chi Feng, Midoriya's quirk is also very curious for all teachers. This powerful power burst type is somewhat similar to All Might, but this type is not rare, it is just a problem of power gap. UA High School Heroes has an entrance competition rate of over 300 per year. Except for the 4 recommended places, the normal number of students admitted through the exam is 36, 18 students in a class, and only 2 classes in total. Chi Feng packed his backpack and came to school. The previous Pingchuan Junior High School was just a cutscene. Now he needs to focus all his attention on the Heroes Class A. Originally, there was a class of 18 people, and according to the truth, there was no Chi Feng's share, but Chi Feng, as a recognized dark horse among teachers, was specifically added to the Heroes subject to class. For this, Chi Feng was not surprised. The quirk he showed was enough to join the Heroes Class A. As for what the teachers think is their business, Chi Feng has never even heard the word dark horse. However, some students knew something about Chi Feng as a dark horse. A1. A1. The place is too big. Chi Feng came not too early, and heard Midoriya talking to himself before entering the class. You are the one who helped me. Midoriya stopped. He had already seen Chi Feng, and he had also seen Class A. For Midoriya, the appearance of Chi Feng seems very mysterious. In short, he feels that Chi Feng is very unusual, which belongs to his intuition. You're welcome. Everyone will be classmates and take care of each other. Chi Feng laughed and patted Midoriya on the shoulder. Midoriya was a little shy, and when he heard Chi Feng's words, he suddenly said in surprise, "Are you also in Heroes Class A?" "Yes, it's obvious. My name is Midoriya Izuku, please advise me." Midoriya lowered his head and said sincerely. "It's the same as worshipping the handle. Get up." Chi Feng helped Midoriya's shoulder. He knew it was the respect of the other party, but he was not used to it. "My name is Chi Feng and I come from China. No matter what happens in the future, I will be optimistic about you," Chi Feng said seriously. At this moment, Midoriya felt like Chi Feng knew that he had one for all, but it was obvious that the other party could not know. At present, only All Might knew about this in this world. However, for Chi Feng's encouragement and support, Midoriya was still very moved. After all, he was just a quirk-free person before, and he was always at the tail of the crane. His heart desires to be praised and recognized by others. Chi Feng's encouragement is undoubtedly a kind of praise to him. This is a good start. Don't need to say thank you, let's go in, all the classmates should be here. Chi Feng patted brother Midoriya on the shoulder, and opened the door first and walked in. Midoriya became a little nervous, he didn't want to be in the same class with those strange people. After Chi Feng entered, he just glanced at the classmates present, and then came to the last position of the class by the window to sit down. He has to keep a low profile now, otherwise a good relationship with these classmates will expose his 2B character. That would not be cool. Some classmates also glanced at Chi Feng and wanted to say hello, but seeing Chi Feng seems a little cold and feels embarrassed. Some people are also quietly discussing Chi Feng about the dark horse. Don't put your feet on the desk, Ida Tenya said loudly to Bakugo Katsuki. Huh? Bakugo Katsuki grinned. Don't you think it's very sorry to do this? The predecessors of heroes still have people who make desks, Ida Tenya said gesticulatingly. I don't think. Which junior high school do you guys come from? One of the little supporting actors, Bakugo Katsuki said scornfully, a tripod swaying on the desk. Midoriya stood at the door and his face turned dark. As expected, everything that should have come was here. The 2 people he didn't want to see were all here. Chapter 12 Heroes Branch welcomes you. Ida Tenya was choked and said, I am Ida Tenya who graduated from a private smart middle school. Smart? Bakugo Katsuki seemed to have heard something funny and grinned. Isn't that the damn elite group? It seems worth killing. The value of slaughter. Ida Tenya was taken aback. How did he think that this classmate was a little abnormal? You are too cruel. Are you really an inspirational hero? Cut. Bakugo Katsuki didn't want to answer this question, and looked away. At this moment, both Ida Tenya and Bakugo Katsuki saw Midoriya standing at the door. You are. Ida Tenya remembered this classmate, but left a big impression on him at the time. That. Midoriya was a little embarrassed. Good morning, I graduated from a private smart middle school. I heard you just now, Midoriya interrupted Ida Tenya. Well, I am Midoriya. Please advise, Ida-san. Midoriya-san, you found out the score composition of that practical test in advance, right? Ida Tenya said regretfully, I didn't find it. I underestimated you. Although very unwilling, it seems that you are better. Ida Tenya spread his hands forward and said. Midoriya was ashamed, but he didn't notice it. Chi Feng watched with gusto from the back seat. These classmates were so cute. After that, Uraraka Ochako arrived and chatted with Midoriya happily. But Bakugo Katsuki put one leg on the desk, looking at Midoriya at the door, remembering. I didn't expect that our school had 2 students who were admitted to Heroes High School, especially Midoriya. It can be said to be a miracle among miracles. Recalling what the teacher said, the corners of Bakugo Katsuki's mouth were a little sour. What dirty means did you use to pass the entrance exam? The first and only UA enrollee since the school was founded. My future plan was completely destroyed by you as soon as it came up. Bakugo Katsuki grabbed Midoriya and furious. Yelled, you told me to get out of the other school. Midoriya was unwilling to show weakness and grabbed Bakugo Katsuki's wrist and said, small victory, someone. Someone told me that I would definitely become heroes, saying that I won it myself, so, I absolutely want to go to UA. I dared to resist, there is absolutely some inside story. Bakugo Katsuki's thoughts returned to reality and looked up to the ceiling. If you want to play and find friends, go elsewhere. Just when Midoriya and Uraraka Ochako were in agreement, a cold and faint voice sounded in the corridor. At a glance, Midoriya saw a man wrapped in a yellow sleeping bag lying in the doorway, with only his head exposed. The vicissitudes of life are still seen from the face, the who scum is still not shaved, and the eyes seem to be bloodshot. This is the heroes section. After Aizawa Shota opened a little sleeping bag, he didn't know if it was juice or milk in his mouth, grunting. Yes. There is something weird. The three of them were surprised. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Chi Feng knows that Aizawa Shota is here. This is a very handsome teacher with a little dress, but it seems to be lazy, or it looks a little decadent because of something. It seems that I have become accustomed to this, so I look sloppy every day. Teacher? So, that person is also a professional heroes? But, I have never seen this kind of malaise, someone whispered. Aizawa Shota took a few steps forward and looked at the class and said lightly, I am your head teacher Aizawa Shota, please give me more advice. Head teacher. Don't waste time, just wear this to the playground. Aizawa Shota said with a piece of clothing out of nowhere. Chi Feng thought to himself that this link is finally here. He doesn't need to be high profile, as long as he surpasses Bakugo Katsuki. Sometimes this guy is too arrogant and has to beat his arrogance. Playground. Quirk Master Test. All the students on the playground were surprised. Where's the entrance ceremony? What about the school introduction? Uraraka Ochako asked suspiciously. Aizawa Shota turned her back to the crowd and said, if you want to be a heroes, you don't have time to participate in that kind of leisurely activities. A big selling point of UA is the free school spirit, and this also applies to teachers. Aizawa Shota turned to show half of his face and said. Chi Feng looked around at these lovely classmates. When his sight was blocked by the strong thing, he knew who it was. Yaoyorozu Momo was listening very seriously at the moment. She can also show her perfect figure in such clothes. I have to say that it is unreal that a high school student can develop into this way. Yaoyorozu put his hands in front of him, looking a little restrained, with a little girl's unique temperament. Most of these classmates are kids, what can they understand when they are 15 or 16? But Chi Feng was in his early 30s, and he was naturally full of blood. But it's better to keep a low profile at the beginning, so as not to be crowned the title of a beast in the class. Aizawa Shota talked about the physical fitness test for banning Quirk, then glanced around the crowd and said, Bakugo got the first place in the practical test, right? Bakugo raised his head, and Aizawa Shota asked, how many meters can I throw when I was in junior high school? 67 meters. Bakugo Katsuki answered truthfully. Then, use Quirk and then throw it away. After Bakugo Katsuki came to the designated area, Aizawa Shota said, as long as you don't get out of the circle, you can do whatever you want. Hurry up and do your best. Then, add the explosive air to the ball. Bakugo Katsuki moved his limbs, and then let out a grin at the corner of his mouth, die. A loud noise erupted in the palm of his hand, and accompanied by the explosion flame, the softball rushed into the sky, and in the blink of an eye, it was out of the normal range of sight. First of all, you must understand where your limits are. That is a reasonable way to build the foundation of heroes. Aizawa Shota raised the phone, and the measurement number on it showed 705.2, which is the result of Bakugo Katsuki. 705 meters, is there any mistake? Kaminari Denki was a little unbelievable. What's going on? It's so funny, Ashido Mina said, clapping her hands. You can use the Quirk as much as you want. It's the Heroes division. Shiro Honda clenched his fists and looked very excited. Chi Feng touched his forehead. These guys speak without thinking about the consequences. This is not a place to play. Then it was too late, and Aizawa Shota said, it seems very interesting, isn't it? Everyone was taken aback, and Aizawa Shota continued. Did you all want to live with this attitude during the 3 years used to grow into heroes? Okay. Then I will consider the person who is the last in the total score of the 8 projects as having no potential, so let's deal with it. Aizawa Shota said with a smirk, with a serious expression. Huh? Everyone was shocked. If they became the last and were fired, wouldn't their previous efforts be wasted? I didn't expect teacher Aizawa to say this at this time. Don't worry, just do your best, and you won't be expelled. At this moment, Chi Feng said abruptly. Everyone looked at him for a while, but Chi Feng was a little embarrassed. Oh, look at me. What are you doing? Aizawa Shota stared at Chi Feng for a few seconds, then slowly moved his eyes away, then rubbed his forehead and smiled. I want to show how students are the freedom of our teachers. You are welcome. This is the Heroes Division of UA High School. Chapter 13. It seems to be quite strong. Midoriya was very nervous. He hadn't mastered one for all at all. It could be said that he didn't even have a clue. If he used it without authorization, he would definitely let his hands go to waste again. What Chi Feng said that he will not be expelled cannot be fully believed. After all, Chi Feng is not a teacher. This teacher Aizawa is not good at all. If he is really expelled, everything will be in vain. Not only Midoriya was playing drums in his heart, but the other classmates were the same. They worked so hard to come to UA High School, but they didn't want to be sent home after the first day of school. That was too shameful. Chi Feng didn't think much about it. He had a good control over Thor's quirk. After all, this growth was within his power control, but as for how far he could throw softballs, he was a little confused. After all, he didn't know himself. The softball will fly a few meters in full shot. The classmates immediately became motivated. None of them felt that they were worse than others. Everyone was in the same class. There may be a natural gap in quirk, but this does not mean everything. Even Uraraka Ochako had some gaffes to discuss with Aizawa Shota. After all, this was only the first day of enrollment, and the last one was dismissed, so this is really inappropriate. However, Aizawa Shota only said, natural disasters, major accidents, and reckless villains, disasters that will come anytime and anywhere, and now the island nation is full of this kind of unreasonableness, and the person who overthrew this kind of crisis is heroes. He changed the conversation again and said, if you plan to go to McDonald's to talk, laugh and have fun after school, then I can only say regret. In the next 3 years, UA will spare no effort to bring you suffering and rush to the farther side. Pious, Uidra. Aizawa Shota hooked his fingers at everyone, try your best to overcome the difficulties. As a baptism, these words are too heavy, but this is indeed the highest peak, I can only go up. After Ida Tenya took out the cup and sucked, his eyes were firm. Although let go. Bakugo Katsuki said excitedly, waving his arms. Everyone began to cheer up, and if they want to become true heroes, they must overcome any unknown difficulties. Okay, the demonstration ends here, and then the formal test. Aizawa Shota saw that everyone seemed to be beginning to feel confident, and his heart became somewhat disheartened. The first item. 50 meters run the first group Ida Tenya and Asui Suyu, Ida Tenya 3 seconds 04, Asui Suyu 5 seconds 58. In the second group, Uraraka Ochako and Ojiro Mashirao, Uraraka Ochako 7 seconds 15 and Ojiro Mashirao 5 seconds 49. The third group Aoyama Yuga and Ashido Mina, Aoyama Yuga 5 seconds 51, Ashido Mina 5 seconds. In the fourth set, Midoriya Izuku and Bakugo Katsuki 4 seconds 13 and Midoriya Izuku 7 seconds 02. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. When it was Chi Feng's turn, everyone started to pay attention. This guy is a dark horse. Bakugo Katsuki's eyes also fell on Chi Feng. He wanted to know how strong this seemingly arrogant guy is. Chi Feng took a breath on the track. He wanted to attach Thor to his feet so that he would have the speed of thunder and lightning. Begin. With an order, Chi Feng burst into blue electric currents from his feet, and then rushed out suddenly. He not only has a quirk bonus, but also has the strength of 1 level of chi training. 50 meters is too easy for him. 3 seconds 09. It was only 0.6 seconds slower than Ida Tenya. Damn it, is this kid so fast? Bakugo Katsuki said with itchy teeth. He didn't want this kind of person to be better than him. Ida Tenya was stunned for a moment, and then began to analyze Chi Feng's quirk carefully. From this short period of time, he discovered that Chi Feng's quirk seemed to be related to thunder and lightning. Thunder means domineering and speed. If it is really lightning, the speed is indeed very fast. After all, his quirk engine is not as fast as Thunderbolt. Chi Feng didn't show all his strength. If he used his full strength, it would be 1 second faster than Ida Tenya. At least it would be around 205. But that would be too popular. Didn't you see Bakugo Katsuki looking at herself hostilely? Midoriya looked at Chi Feng very enviously. He felt that this classmate was excellent no matter what. Xiao Sheng was the person he admired the most in his mind before. Now it seems that this young man named Chi Feng is even better than Xiao Sheng. Cut. What do you look at? Bakugo Katsuki said angrily. He naturally saw Midoriya's admiration for Chi Feng in his eyes. No, Midoriya waved away quickly, feeling helpless for Xiao Sheng. Suyu Sauce came to Chi Feng and smiled and said, Chi Feng Sauce, you are really amazing. Suyu Sauce is also very strong, Chi Feng said with a smile. At this time, Yayorozu Momo, the goddess in Chi Feng's eyes, came over and stared at him for a few seconds. After Chi Feng had some goosebumps, she said, what are you, Quirk? Thunder attribute Quirk. Chi Feng pretended to be calm. He couldn't tell Thor again. After all, the 2 words Thor was eye-catching enough. Even his classmates could not expose him. Thunder Quirk, Yayorozu suddenly realized, it seems to be quite strong. In her eyes, quirks like Bakugo Katsuki and Shoto Todoroki are very strong, and now she thinks Chi Feng's quirk is the most lethal, fast and powerful. Chi Feng smiled a little shyly. At this moment, Suyu Sauce on the side suddenly looked at Yayorozu Momo and said, Yayorozu Sauce, you have to be careful with your breasts. Chi Feng. Yayorozu Momo. Both of them were a little confused. Chi Feng was confused. Naturally, Suyu Sauce almost confessed to him, and Yayorozu Momo didn't seem to understand, but she looked at Chi Feng and understood a little bit, but not too much. ever cared. After all, she didn't expect Chi Feng to touch her chest when there were too many people. Soon several projects passed. Chi Feng has been maintaining an upstream attitude, and finally in the softball session, Uraraka Ochako threw an infinity, which shocked everyone's teeth. Midoriya stared at the softball in the circle in a daze. Everyone else had one of his own specialties and all achieved high scores. It seems that all his scores are average, and he will definitely be the last one if he continues. So he has to come up with a good result. He can only rely on softball, but he hasn't mastered one for all now, so he doesn't know where the PowerPoint is. Chi Feng held his arm and looked at Midoriya. At this time, Midoriya looked at him. Chi Feng wanted to remind him to use his fingers to control his power. At this time, Midoriya can only do this, but the prompt is inappropriate. Midoriya-kun will be very bad if it continues like this, Ida Tenya said with some worry. The blast on the side immediately became happy, and pointed to Midoriya and said loudly to Ida Tenya, "Isn't this nonsense? He is a Quirk-free scum." "No Quirk." Ida Tenya lowered the hands he was holding, looking a little surprised. "Don't you know his feat on the entrance exam?" Ida Tenya said suspiciously, and at this moment Midoriya was ready to throw. Chapter 14 Midoriya's determination. The softball thrown by Midoriya fell to the ground and the machine tipped 46 meters. "I just obviously felt that I was going to use it." Midoriya felt a desperation. He already felt the power of one for all on his arm. This time his softball performance was slightly better. He would not need to be in the bottom. Do not need to be dropped out. "I got rid of your Quirk," Aizawa Shota on the side said faintly, and the white streamers danced around him. It was so cool. Midoriya turned around and saw Aizawa Shota become like this, and was shocked. At this time, Aizawa Shota said with a bit of enthusiasm, "That kind of entrance examination really lacks rationality, and a guy like you can even enter the school. Eliminate the Quirk." Midoriya looked at Aizawa Shota, and suddenly remembered, that goggles, that's how it is. Just stare at the Quirk that can erase the opponent's Quirk and eliminate Hero's eraser. Head. Eraser. Don't know. The classmates gathered to discuss it this time, but most of the students didn't know each other. "I've heard that it's the hidden heroes, because he hates showing up in front of the media, saying that it will affect his work." Chi Feng saw All Might on the side of the school building, grinning and seemed to be smiling forever. At this moment, All Might was observing Midoriya. This teenager worried him very much. "Yes, Midoriya boy, I can't get along with him at all." All Might looked at Midoriya standing next to Aizawa Shota and said helplessly, "Who made Aizawa Shota the head teacher of Midoriya?" Aizawa Shota stared at Midoriya with red eyes and said, "It looks like you can't control the Quirk, right? If you become immobile again, do you still expect others to save you?" I didn't think that way." As soon as Midoriya finished saying this sentence, Aizawa Shota's white strips pulled him in front of him. "No matter what you think, people around you have to come to rescue you. There was a heroes, who was overly passionate, created a legend of a man who rescued more than 1,000 people in a catastrophe. Even if you have the same courage as him, you will only become a puppet after saving another person. Midoriya Izuku, you can't make heroes with your strength." Aizawa Shota said lightly after removing the white bars. "Your Quirk has been restored. You have 2 shots. Get it done quickly." Chi Feng did not remind Midoriya again. After all, one for all is relatively confidential. Now, after Aizawa Shota said this, Midoriya has an answer in his heart. It seems to be receiving guidance. Ida Tenya rubbed his chin and analyzed. "It's the announcement of expulsion, right?" Bakugo Katsuki said with his hands on his hips. He had long wanted to breathe out that Midoriya had saved him in the first place, but now he was admitted to UA High School to grab the limelight. "It's just that you can't bully Midoriya as openly as you did when you were a kid. Instead, you have to let Midoriya know through reasonable means that only he, Bakugo Katsuki, is the strongest and can become the strongest heroes." Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Aoyama Yuga on the side smiled and talked to Uraraka Ochako, and touched her shoulder with her hand, which seemed familiar. Uraraka Ochako asked with a dazed expression, "Who are you?" A black line floats in Aoyama Yuga's mind. Midoriya has been thinking about what to do and which one to choose. He seems to be very entangled in his heart. Aizawa Shota stared at Midoriya with half of his eyes open. "It's not a long lesson, and I will do my best. Or choose to back down and accept the fact that I'm the last one. No matter which one you choose, there is no hope." Finally, after thinking about it, Midoriya raised his right hand holding the softball and threw it into the sky. "Ms. Aizawa is right. If I continue like before, I will never become a heroes." Midoriya looked at her right hand tightly. "Hey, isn't it?" All Might thought Midoriya would use his best, and even if he broke his right hand, he wouldn't want to be the last. "I have to work as much as his number. I am not a small victory. With Chi Feng's existence, I need persistence day after day, so I will do my best to do what I can do now." Midoriya exploded with power from his fingertips and yelled, "Smash!" The softball was exploded in an instant, flying rapidly in the air. After the 3-layer airflow circled and flew towards the distance, all the students suddenly shouted in surprise. They did not expect Midoriya to explode with such a strong force at this moment. It's not as painful as before. Although Midoriya means that he can't move at this moment, his heart is like a mirror. Aizawa's words are still echoing in his ears. "If you become unable to move again, Do you still expect others to come? Save you? Softball landing, 705.3. Teacher. Midoriya looked at Aizawa Shota firmly, clenched his right hand and said, I still can move. Aizawa Shota finally got really big eyes, showing red bloodshot eyes, and the corners of her mouth raised and smiled. This guy. I ran over to take a look because I was a little worried about you, but what is this, boy? I still can't adjust my strength, but I can't fall into a state of immobility. That's it, the last force that pushed the ball out, just use it to play one for all. Using the minimum injury to maximize the strength, it's amazing, boy. You are so handsome. All Might waved his fist into the air and said proudly. Chi Feng was very moved when he saw this scene. He remembered that when he was chasing in the Taoist temple with a tablet computer. Tears filled his eyes when he saw this scene. Now he is close to him, and he swears to be something worthy of everyone's trust. People can't let brother Midoriya steal the limelight alone. It's over 700 meters. Uraraka Ochako raised his hands and said happily, I finally got a hero's grade. Chi Feng has to say, Uraraka Ochako really has a good impression of Midoriya, otherwise his handsome guy is so good, how could he not arouse Uraraka Ochako's admiration? It can only be said that the CP of Uraraka Ochako and Midoriya Izuku is too high, and it seems that they can no longer affect others. Fingers are swollen. Ida Tenya said in surprise. It was also during the entrance exam. His quirk is really strange. Aoyama Yuga smiled and AV mouth and said, it's not cool at all. Then, what's the matter with that power? Bakugo Katsuki opened his mouth wide in surprise. A person awakens quirk before the age of 4. This is impossible, but the truth is. What's going on? Bakugo Katsuki didn't even want to understand why the smell became so strong for a long time. He rushed out full of anger, the explosion sounded in his hand, and grabbed Midoriya. You kid, give it to me. Explain clearly, smelly for a long time. Just when Bakugo Katsuki was about to catch Midoriya, he was entangled in a white bandage. What's the matter, this cloth? So hard. This is a capture weapon woven with carbon fiber and special alloy steel wire, Aizawa Shota said gruffly. Really, don't let me use quirk over and over again. I have dry eyes. Obviously quirk is so powerful, it's a waste, everyone complained. Chapter 15 See clearly, I am Lei, UA High School 1A class teacher, Aizawa Shota. Quirk is to eliminate the quirk of those you see, and you can release it in the blink of an eye. Don't waste time, prepare for the next one. Aizawa Shota turned around and said lightly. Bakugo Katsuki squeezed his fist and said angrily, not long ago, obviously it was just an inconspicuous stone on the side of the road. Recalling Midoriya's worshipping eyes and way of speaking when he was a child, Midoriya seems to be more different now, and it seems that he will never worship him Bakugo Katsuki anymore. Just then Chi Feng walked up, passing by Bakugo Katsuki, and smiled faintly. You laugh, the guy who broke the discharge. Bakugo Katsuki was a little unhappy with Chi Feng, but at this time he even dared to laugh at him. Chi Feng was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect that his explosive temper was as hot as the legend, and he couldn't even smile? He is not Midoriya, so naturally there is no need to give Bakugo Katsuki face. Immediately Chi Feng said, look clearly, I am not the one who discharges, but that one over there. After speaking, Chi Feng pointed to Kaminari Denki in the crowd. Kaminari Denki looked at Chi Feng dumbfounded, not knowing what it meant to point to him. Cut. Is there a difference? You two are rubbish. Bakugo Katsuki snorted and turned away. Hey, wait. Chi Feng stopped Bakugo Katsuki. See clearly, I am Lei. Aizawa Shota focused on Chi Feng. The potential value of this student can be said to be very large. Although Lei quirk is not unique, it is definitely not much. He wants to see how strong Chi Feng is. This class of heroes seems a bit interesting. Aizawa Shota stared at Chi Feng with blazing eyes. He felt that this dark horse was very important. It seemed that the plasticity value was equal to that of Midoriya, but Chi Feng started from a very high starting point, and what Midoriya needed was more time to sharpen. What to look at? Bakugo Katsuki turned his head in disdain. At this moment, Chi Feng squeezed the softball in his right hand. Suddenly, a ball of thunder burst out in his palm. The softball directly broke through 10 circles of white waves and flew into the distance. Bakugo Katsuki's eyes widened suddenly, which seemed to be faster than his. It's so tall. Ida Tenya raised her eyes and looked. It turns out that he uses electricity, which seems to be similar to me. Kaminari Denki said with a grin, as if he had found the same kind. Don't be silly. People are thunder, how can they be like yours? Yaoyorozu Momo said with his hands. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Why are you talking to him like that? I'm also an electrician anyway. Is the branch of thunder good? Kaminari Denki said unconvincedly, as if his quirk is very dependent, although overuse will temporarily become idiot, but it's so strong, okay. Indeed, if Kaminari Denki's electricity is used properly, or the difficulty of overusing electricity is overcome, great progress will be made. Yaoyorozu Momo's face blushed slightly, and she turned away and walked away. She didn't want to answer this question. He was just curious and interested in Chi Feng, but when it comes to good feelings, there are actually some. Speaking for Chi Feng is entirely because thunder itself is stronger than electricity, nothing more. 950.05 meters. Everyone took a deep breath. Except for Uraraka Ochako, Chi Feng was the first to throw a distance based solely on his own strength. This is a bit scary. It means that the opponent's power and speed are above them. Oh, Aizawa Shota was slightly taken aback, but fortunately the power was within an intelligible range. Chi Feng took out 80% of his power, and if he tried his best, he should be able to reach more than 1,300 meters. But that would be too pushy. Now he only needs to be angry with Bakugo and get a middle upper ranking. It doesn't need to be top-notch. After dozens of minutes, everyone completed all the items in the physical fitness test and assembled on the playground. Then, hurry up and announce the results, Aizawa said. The total score is very simple, it is the total score of all the results. It is a waste of time to explain one by one, I will put it together and make it public. The last person in the total score will be expelled. Midoriya is still worried, after all, he knows that his other scores are faster than normal people at best. The first place is 1.8 million, the second is Shoto Todoroki, the third is Chi Feng, the fourth is Bakugo Katsuki, the fifth is Ida Tenya, the sixth is Tokiyami Fumakage, the seventh is Mezzo Shoji, and the eighth is Ojiro Mashirao. The ninth place is Kirishima Eijiro, and the 10th place is Ashido Mina. The 11th place Uraraka Ochako, the 12th place Kota Koji, the 13th place Sato Rikido, the 14th place Asui Suyu, the 15th place Aoyama Yuga, the 16th place Shiro Honta, the 17th place Kaminari Denki, the 7th place 18 Ears Sang the Fragrance, the 19th Hagakure Toru, the 20th Mineta Minoru, and the 21st Midoriya Izuku. It was above me. Bakugo Katsuki turned to look at Chi Feng angrily. This self-righteous guy was actually above his ranking, but he was the third place. Chi Feng replied to Bakugo Katsuki with only one smile. In order to respond to changes, this is how it is to deal with Bakugo Katsuki. Chi Feng can be schooled. Bakugo Katsuki smashed both fists and wanted to squash Chi Feng madly. Sure enough, Mr. Chi Feng is ranked 3rd, and I am ranked 17th. This is not a point or two. Kaminari Denki said helplessly, it seems that Lei has a natural advantage over electricity. This is because Kaminari Denki doesn't know that Chi Feng has an air-controlled quirk. If he knows that Chi Feng is a double quirk, he probably has to hide in the corner and draw circles. By the way, the expulsion was a lie to you. Aizawa Shota said flatly. But this is not the case in every student's ears, this FCK is not a cheat. Especially Midoriya, the whole person is going to be petrified. He tried so hard to win the top few and didn't want to be eliminated and expelled. As a result, Teacher Aizawa actually said that it was a lie. It's a reasonable hypocrisy to stimulate your quirk to the maximum. Aizawa Shota gave a playful and sinister smile. Is it a lie? Just think about it. At the beginning, classmate Chi Feng said that it is impossible to be expelled. Yaoyorozu Momo looked at Midoriya with some contempt. I didn't notice it at all. It's really scary. Shiro Honta grinned reluctantly. I am ready to meet the challenge at any time. Kirishima Eijiro raised his fist in great interest. Chi Feng glanced at Kirishima Eijiro. This guy seems to be spit out a lot. Some people say that he looks like Naz in Fairy Tail, but now it looks like it is indeed, even the sound is very similar. Some people complained that he was a rape, and Chi Feng can't see it now, so he can't wrong a good person. After all, Kirishima Eijiro is so passionate. This is the end of the test, everyone returns to the classroom, ready to leave school. Chapter 16. Your name is Chi Feng, right? After Chi Feng left the school, he headed for a road alone. So far, he was the only one walking the road. The rest of the students also took this road, but there were no people from the Heroes class. At this moment, someone seemed to be talking to him. Chi Feng turned around and looked around. His hair was half white and half red. It was Shoto Todoroki. Is there anything going on with me? Chi Feng said casually. After finishing speaking, he realized that he was fluent. At this time, it seems inappropriate to call Shoto Todoroki. After all, everyone is not familiar with it. Mr. Boom. Shoto Todoroki was taken aback for a moment, without the slightest expression on his indifferent face, except that Chi Feng was a little surprised at what he said. He has observed Chi Feng these days. It can be said that Chi Feng is a bit weird and a bit out of gregariousness, but sometimes he tends to be gregarious. He seems to know everything about everyone. The most important point is that Chi Feng is very strong and also very calm. To be honest, there are very few people of the same age who have Chi Feng's temperament. Shoto Todoroki said lightly. Your quirk is very strong, can you try it with me? Chi Feng was a little surprised this time. Shoto Todoroki belongs to the kind of person who is cold and warm and cool and warm. He didn't expect to be a classmate for one day, but he was looking for himself. You must know that Chi Feng is not the only one who is strong. Tokiyami Fumakage and Bakugo Katsuki have very strong quirks. Shoto Todoroki didn't look for them, but found him the first time, which is a bit interesting. I'm sorry, Mr. Bo, I have no interest. Chi Feng said euphemistically. Shoto Todoroki can only use ice at present. For ice, thunder can penetrate. Shoto Todoroki's quirk is not a threat to him. Unless the opponent can use fire quirk now. Shoto Todoroki didn't expect that Chi Feng would refuse. According to the plot, Chi Feng should agree. After all, the strong like to fight the strong. Now Shoto Todoroki is interested in Chi Feng. Reason. Shoto Todoroki's face changed slightly, but he was still calm. Ask the reason. Because I'm here. Chi Feng left after saying this. It is not yet time to fight Shoto Todoroki. Shoto Todoroki. He couldn't understand. This guy looked serious. How could he suddenly feel that he was in the second grade? Could it be his illusion? Shoto Todoroki can only smile at this. Chi Feng doesn't want to fight him. That can only show that the other party has some hidden feelings, or simply doesn't like fighting, or he is afraid of himself. After Chi Feng left, he had to pass through a park every time. He didn't know what the park was called, he just thought it was quiet. Call out. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. A needle-like object was avoided by Chi Feng and almost pierced his arm. Hey, the response is pretty quick. After backing a few meters, Chi Feng saw the man clearly and immediately said, Himiko Toga. Yes, this is a cute-looking female high school student, but in fact she has a distorted mind. She admires Stain because of what Stain said, hopes to become Stain, and hopes to kill Stain himself. I like the kind of people who are covered with bruises and blood, so I always want to stab others. He is a wanted criminal in a series of deaths caused by excessive blood loss. The quirk changes its appearance by drinking the opponent's blood. However, as long as the sick girl didn't hurt him for the first time, she wouldn't want to succeed again. Ale, do you know me? Himiko Toga showed a cute expression, which was full of doubts. I was almost deceived by you. Chi Feng has a good sense of this girl. If the other party is not from the villain alliance, she might be able to change her. But at this moment Himiko Toga should be just a high school student. The Stain incident has not happened yet, there is no assimilation of a group of followers, and his will has not yet been manifested. But there is no shortage of a few followers. Chi Feng doesn't know whether Himiko Toga is already under the shadow of Hero's killer Stain at this time. Cut. I wanted to find a high school student's body for fun. It's really disappointing. Himiko Toga waved his hand and turned away. The miniskirt was blown by the breeze, revealing a touch of white inside. Chi Feng watched a burst of springheartedness, but the next moment his face was full, and he said, I wanted to leave without a successful attack. Do you think I'm so bullied? Oh, Himiko Toga turned his head to look, then what do you want? Chi Feng smiled at the corner of his mouth, how? The next moment he took advantage of the speed of Thor's return, and such a short distance would be there in the blink of an eye. Chi Feng pushed Himiko Toga with his right hand and pushed Himiko Toga onto the lawn. Himiko Toga was shocked and wanted to pierce Chi Feng with a needle. Chi Feng didn't give her a chance and directly paralyzed Himiko Toga with a thunder, and she instantly collapsed. What are you going to do? Himiko Toga felt a little flustered for the first time. She has been preying on prey all the time, but today is the opposite. Also, the speed of this classmate is very fast. It seems that Quirk is related to paralysis or electricity. Relationship. Chi Feng has known Himiko Toga a long time ago. Her quirk is good and can be ever-changing, but in terms of her own strength, she is a bit worse. To be honest, she is not good at it alone. Chi Feng was pressing Himiko Toga at this moment, and his body suddenly became hot, but this body is not yet mature, causing the reaction in some places to not be very strong. Himiko Toga flushed and looked at Chi Feng. Suddenly, she felt that this man was too domineering, and her heartbeat speeded up for a while. What are you doing? Chi Feng smiled and said meaningfully. No one is here usually, so you choose to play against me here. Also, now I am my home court, and the environment here happens to be beneficial to me. Himiko Toga is really a little scared at the moment. She usually observes here that the people who come to this park are basically old people, or the kind of young people who are lost in love. There are indeed very few people at this point. If the other party wants to do something unsightly, she really can't help it. After all, her body is still numb. What to do, to be eaten. Himiko Toga is struggling in her heart. She is still a girl, how can she come into contact with this kind of thing? Chi Feng looked amused at her red face. He naturally wouldn't do anything to her, even if he wanted to, his current body wouldn't allow it, but just wanted to tease her. At this moment, Chi Feng's head was hit by something, because he was too close to Himiko Toga's lips, so he kissed him directly. Ah! Himiko Toga hurriedly yelled, my first kiss. Chi Feng stood up in a hurry and glanced at the apple that fell to the side. It was embarrassing. He was hit by the apple, and then he ran away without a trace. I have to say, her lips are very soft. Chapter 17. Do you want to kill me? Himiko Toga lay on the ground blankly, looking at the blue sky and wondering what he was thinking. No one passed by here, it was extremely quiet, only the sound of birds and the rustle of leaves blowing in the wind. After a long time, she gradually calmed down and sat up straight. My first kiss was taken away by a high school student. Thinking of Chi Feng's appearance, her face can still blush at this moment. Somehow, she actually feels a little bit interesting for Chi Feng, very strange. She has never liked boys, only the desire for prey, the kind of heartbeat that simply sees good prey, not the heartbeat of feelings. This time it was different. She actually felt a heartbeat, which was very bad. After Chi Feng returned home, he took a cold shower to dissipate his anger. After all, he did this kind of thing for the first time after he came to this world. It was inevitable that he was a little restless. However, people like Himiko Toga can only be regarded as true lovers if they truly possess or enter her heart, otherwise it is very dangerous. Such a cute girl took a needle and pricked people all day long. There was blood everywhere, which was not good at all. Looks like a bloody loli. After adjusting himself, Chi Feng sat cross-legged on the sofa to start today's practice, at which time he received salvation points. Save points plus 50, the saved person Himiko Toga. What's the matter? Chi Feng was taken aback, and Himiko Toga was saved by him. Chi Feng thought to himself, he didn't save her at all. Okay, did the things I did before have anything to do with the rescue? Since he couldn't figure it out, Chi Feng simply stopped thinking about it. Now he has to accumulate salvation points. It is already 850, and it is only 105 to get a weapon and a special costume. Chi Feng thinks that systematic things should be better than the special uniforms issued by UA Academy. It didn't take long for the door to be knocked. Inoue Ying took a lunch box for Chi Feng to eat. These 10 o'clocks are considered to be supper. Inoue Ying said that Chi Feng was growing up and it was okay to eat more at night. After Inoue Sakura left, Chi Feng opened the bento, and the small box was filled with sushi, sashimi, and some fried fish steaks. After coming to the island country, Chi Feng seldom eats Chinese food. Although there is some aftertaste, the food here is also very good. It is very clean and environmentally friendly. Maybe this is the characteristic of the island country. UA High School's Heroes course is a compulsory subject in the morning, and general courses such as English. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. The teacher is naturally present Mike. The English class he teaches is a bit boring, and the students don't seem to have much enthusiasm. At noon, you can enjoy first-class cuisine at low prices in the canteen. Chi Feng randomly found a spot in the corner and ordered a Chinese meal. After all, he hadn't had it for a while. UA High School's cuisine is top-notch. Whether it's Chinese, Thai, or Western food, Chi Feng also prefers to eat French fries burgers. A Chinese meal, scrambled eggs with tomatoes, spicy chicken, and green pepper slices, plus a teriyaki chicken drumstick and a piece of French fries. Chi Feng has a lot of appetite, and these are no problems for him. He had just eaten a few bites of scrambled eggs with tomatoes, and when he looked up, he saw Midoriya sitting opposite him, and then Ida Tenya and Uraraka Ochako, both sitting together. Chi Feng thought for a while, shouldn't these three guys sit together? That's right, they are sitting together, but they are indeed sitting in the position he chose. Chi Feng, shall we have dinner together? Midoriya Izuku said embarrassedly. What can I say after you sit down? Of course. Chi Feng is very easygoing. He also likes to make friends. He is quite impressed with these three classmates. Ida Tenya is straight-hearted, honest and upright, and sometimes offends people by speaking, but he is indeed a good person, very enthusiastic and helpful. Uraraka Ochako is kind and very cute. He considers everything he talks about, and has a kind heart. Needless to say, Midoriya, Chi Feng can't understand him better. Mr. Chi Feng, I think you usually like to be alone by yourself. Isn't it difficult to get together? Ida Tenya said directly without any temptation. Really an outspoken classmate. Chi Feng touched Khan in his heart and said, it's okay, I'm used to it by myself, of course it's best to have classmates and friends. Really Chi Feng Jun, Midoriya said happily at this time. He wants to make friends with Chi Feng. Now Chi Feng is his idol. Chi Feng took his chopsticks and put a piece of curry in Midoriya's bowl, really. Midoriya was not stingy, so Chi Feng was a little happy to eat the curry in his bowl. After Chi Feng finished the curry, he sandwiched a piece of Ida Tenya's pork chop, which he ate with relish. Mr. Chi Feng, do you have any hobbies? Why do you like to eat other people's food? Don't you want to get one? Ida Tenya frowned and said, he was missing a pork chop. You eat mine too. Everyone is courteous. I don't think you have eaten Chinese food much, it tastes very good. Chi Feng patted Ida Tenya on the shoulder and said. With a mentality of experimentation, Ida Tenya picked up a slice of hot pepper and stuffed it into his mouth. It's so spicy. Ida Tenya drank the juice immediately, then looked at Chi Feng and said, do you want to be so spicy? No, you are so spicy and I can't inherit your flowers. Chi Feng said cheerfully. Some islanders don't eat spicy food very much. This dish is still relatively burnt, which restores the taste of Chinese food. Wabai. What is that? Ida Tenya sticks out her tongue and keeps fanning with her hand, trying to relieve the hotness. It's nothing. Chi Feng looked at Uraraka Ochako again. Uraraka Ochako was a little wary of protecting his food. Chi Feng, don't think about the idea of hitting my food. Girls can't give men what they eat. Children eat. I don't mean that, I mean you want to try Chinese food. Chi Feng said seductively. I refuse. Uraraka Ochako showed no face at all. It seems that classmate Midoriya has a place in your heart. I was so ruthlessly rejected. Chi Feng touched his forehead and said with some shame. Mr. Chi Feng, what are you talking about? Uraraka Ochako's face turned red all of a sudden, but Midoriya did not react too much, but felt a little embarrassed. Ida Tenya looked at Uraraka Ochako, and then at Midoriya Izuku, and seemed to understand a little bit. Ida-san, please don't think about it. Uraraka Ochako stared at Ida Tenya. Ah, no, I didn't say anything. Ida Tenya waved his hand and said, he was actually targeted. The meal ended happily. Chi Feng's relationship with these three classmates has also become closer, and the days to come will be very long. He wants to be with his favorite classmates. Chapter 18 Special Chi Feng. Then it's the afternoon course, Heroes Fundamentals. I'm coming too. A loud and full of breath sounded. All Might came on stage and rushed in from the door. It's normal to enter through the door. All Might grinned and smiled. It's All Might. Kaminari Denki trembled. That's amazing. It turns out he is really a teacher. Hiroshima Eijiro said admiringly. Suyu-chan poked her face with her hand. That's the costume of the Maiman Silver Age. The style of painting is so different, I have goosebumps. Ojiro Mashirao was ashamed. All Might didn't seem to care about the following discussion. He stepped onto the podium and said, the course I am in charge of is Heroes Fundamentals. This is a course for various training to build the foundation of heroes, and it has the most credits. It's not too late, today is it, combat training. All Might said with a wave of his hand. Fight. Biao immediately became excited. And there is this, look here. All Might waved his hand to the wall on the right. Cracks appeared on the wall, and rows of shelves were pulled out horizontally. Boxes were marked on the shelves, with numerical serial numbers on them. The combat suit is customized based on the Quirk report and needs you submitted before enrollment. Oh, everyone cried excitedly, which sounds so cool. Everyone changed their clothes and gathered at Playground B. Chi Feng remembered that there was music playing in this segment, and everyone gradually came out of the dim place. The special uniform that Chi Feng wore was more handsome. This was a custom-made storage for him by the school. The lightning suit can greatly enhance its own lightning release as much as possible. So as to achieve super-level performance, it is indeed twice the result with half the effort to use against the enemy. When everyone came out, they were all cool, and their faces were full of confidence. It's also very important to start with dress up. Young girls, starting from today, you must have the consciousness of being heroes. All Might said loudly, standing in the sun. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Looking at the students, All Might smiled and said, yes, everyone is very handsome. Okay, let's get started. Fertilized eggs. ... Clothing fee reduction. As long as you submit the Quirk to report physical information and design needs before you enter UA High School, there will be a school-exclusive sponsor company to provide the latest clothing. Such a wonderful system. Chi Feng's clothing is dark blue all over, like a deep ocean. There is a metal device on the ears and a metal backpack on the back, which is used to store lightning and exert its power at critical moments. Chi Feng turned his head and looked. Midoriya's clothes are really funny and cute. At the moment he is chatting with Uraraka Ochako. Mineta Minoru stares at Uraraka Ochako, his eyes straight, and then he blurts out involuntarily, Heroes is great. Grape, please withdraw from the group. Chi Feng said with a smile, he thought it was funny. Withdraw from the group? What group? Mineta Minoru asked puzzled. Chi Feng didn't pay attention to this guy anymore. This little grape will probably hate himself in the future. After all, Chi Feng is not a good stubborn. He can't resist these lovely female classmates. In the last life, he died on a woman. In this life it should have been rational. But he knew that in this world, these classmates would not have the same situation as in his previous life. It may be a human-set problem. However, it is also possible that the human design collapses. After all, the world now is completely real, not fictional. Next is the time for combat training. Chi Feng knows that he and his classmates will have a contest, but there is no doubt about the suspense, with the current strength of these classmates, except for Bakugo Katsuki, Shoto Todoroki, Tokiyami Fumakage, Hiroshima Eijiro, Ida Tenya, Yaoyorozu Momo. These are more difficult. Other classmates couldn't face his thunder and lightning. Maybe Kaminari Denki could contend for his thunder a little bit, but in the end, electricity could not beat thunder. One is the law of nature, the power of thunder, and the other is electricity. The gap is far. Even the power of thunder has 3 or 6 or 9 grades. Chi Feng doesn't know what level of Thor's second coming is, but it's definitely not bad. There were a total of 20 people, and Chi Feng was 21. In this case, one person would have a bye and could not form a team. However, it is also possible to defend in groups of 3, or to attack 3 in groups of 2, but the premise is that there is a group of Chi Feng, and there is no doubt that more powerful people will be assigned to fight. Otherwise, according to Chi Feng's strength, the average 2 people can't stop it at all. This is also a problem that some teachers have thought about. They have long analyzed that Chi Feng's quirk is a very terrible mind quirk. This quirk can suppress the element system quirk. In short, in the element system quirk, the lightning attribute is almost the top of the pyramid. Symbol of it. Teacher. Ida Tenya suddenly raised his hand. Everyone looked at the person wrapped in silver armor and recognized him as Ida Tenya, who looked really handsome. This is the practice area for the entrance exams. May I ask if we are going to conduct a simulated block practice again? Ida Tenya asked. No, it's going to be 2 more floors this time. All Might raised a hand with 2 fingers and said, although the crusade against villain we saw was mainly carried out outdoors, in terms of statistics, indoors the probability of a villain is even higher. Incarceration, house arrest, underground trading, in this hero's saturated society. All Might coughed twice and continued. Anyway, the really cunning villain are all lurking in the dark. You will be divided into villain team and heroes team and have a 2-on-2 indoor battle. Speaking of this, All Might glanced at Chi Feng and said, Chi Feng will join one of the teams and become a 3-person team. Of course, the students who are playing against it must be the top students in the strongest assessment. Cut. Why is Chi Feng joining someone else's team alone? Why isn't it me? Bakugo Katsuki said unconvincingly. Doesn't it mean that Chi Feng is stronger than him? Other classmates also looked at Chi Feng one after another. It seems that this classmate is a bit special. However, they didn't know that Chi Feng would not be in Heroes SA class. After all, there are 20 students in a class. It is not easy to allocate one more, but after consultation with the teacher, Chi Feng stayed. Chi Feng, it seems that the teacher has a high opinion of you. Ida Tenya said with some envy. After all, Chi Feng is a bit special. Chi Feng, do you want to join my team? Kaminari Denki immediately leaned over. The combination of thunder and lightning, the world is invincible. No, thank you. Chi Feng tactfully refused. Kaminari Denki stepped back helplessly. Chi Feng then said, unless you let Yaoyorozu Momo join the team, I can think about it. Although Kaminari Denki sometimes becomes a temporary idiot when using overpower, it does not mean that he has always been. When Chi Feng said this, he already understood that this incredible Chi Feng likes Yaoyorozu Momo. Girl, he understands. No problem, wrap it on me. Kaminari Denki immediately went to discuss with Yaoyorozu Momo. Chapter 19 Imitating Skills. All Might began to introduce the rules. The scenario is that villain hides the nuclear weapon somewhere in the stronghold, and Heroes wants to eliminate this threat. Heroes needs to seize villain within a limited time or successfully recover the nuclear weapons. And villain needs to protect the nuclear weapons within a limited time, or seize heroes. Student Chi Feng, you can choose 2 partners to start directly, but the premise is that they agree. All Might looked at Chi Feng at this time. Although he is the teacher of Midoriya Izuku, he is also the master and heir, but for this Chi Feng still caring. Other students may think that Chi Feng is a bit special, but there is no alternative. After all, Chi Feng was originally named by the principal to join the Heroes Class A. The distribution of 20 people is basically a group of 2, and one more Chi Feng will automatically become a group of 3. Cut. I must blow him up. Bakugo Katsuki was dissatisfied. For what reason Chi Feng is special? For such special people, he usually uses special methods. Shoto Todoroki had no expression on the side, just stared at Chi Feng for a few seconds, and already had an idea in his mind. I choose Kaminari Denki and Yaoyorozu Momo. Chi Feng said flatly. After all, he promised Kaminari Denki, and he couldn't believe it. Midoriya was a little frustrated. He thought Chi Feng would choose him, but he didn't expect it to be Kaminari Denki and Yaoyorozu Momo. Suyu Sauce was at the back of the crowd and glanced at Chi Feng. She knew that Chi Feng regarded her as a friend, so she would naturally support her friend's choice. Yaoyorozu Momo seemed to know it. He walked out of the crowd and stood beside Chi Feng. Kaminari Denki walked over happily. He was reliable. After all, he told Yaoyorozu Momo that Chi Feng invited her to join the team. Yaoyorozu Momo just thought about it and agreed. Kaminari Denki didn't think much about it. After all, everyone is a classmate. Maybe Chi Feng wants to use Yaoyorozu Momo's quirk. This is not certain. If Chi Feng knew about Kaminari Denki's idea, he would definitely explain it. I'm sorry, I just want to get in touch with her. Then, let's get started soon. The first group is the defensive team led by Chi Feng. Does any classmate want to challenge them? All Might smiled and said, looking at the crowd. I'm coming. Bakugo Katsuki yelled and took a few steps forward. Shoto Todoroki didn't speak, but the action was beyond doubt, and he took a few steps forward, side by side with Bakugo Katsuki. Half-faced guy, I'm enough alone, what are you coming to join in the fun? Bakugo Katsuki said uncomfortably. He wanted to challenge Chi Feng's entire group alone. Shoto Todoroki didn't speak, and seemed very calm. Bakugo Katsuki said with itchy teeth, whatever pretends to be cool, all of them are so unpleasant. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Well, now that Bakugo and H are willing to challenge the Chi Feng group, it is so decided. Let's start now. All Might waved his hand and looked a little excited. Chi Feng, please take your teammates upstairs to find Stronghold, protect the nuclear bomb. The 3 of Chi Feng immediately entered the building. The walls and ground of the building were hard after being renovated, and there were many dark walls and mazes, which were used to obstruct vision and facilitate sneak attacks. Are there any mistakes? These 2 groups are too strong. Shiro Honta said silently. Indeed, the strength of these 2 groups is very strong. Tokiyami Fumikage hugged his arms and looked a little low-key, but also very calm. Mezzo Shoji said. These two groups are probably the strongest two of our groups, and they are the highlight. I don't think this Chi Feng is a good person. Mineta Minoru said suddenly. Some people looked at Mineta Minoru and asked, why? Because he chose to be with Yaoyorozu Momo. Mineta Minoru blurted out, waving a small hand. The others rolled their eyes suddenly, and showed no interest in Mineta Minoru's words. This guy seemed to be a bit sloppy, and his attention was focused on the female classmate. Hey, don't hold on to my hind legs. Bakugo Katsuki snorted and walked in first. Shoto Todoroki looked upstairs, thinking a little. Then, the game officially begins. All Might roared, announcing the start of the game. Inside the building, at the top. You two are here looking at this nuclear bomb, Yaoyorozu sauce, can you make me a heater, a small one? Chi Feng arranged for the two to be here in order to fear that one of the other would break in here first. It's better to be a precaution. Maybe he is not the opponent of Bakugo Katsuki and Shoto Todoroki in 1-2, but Chi Feng absolutely believes that his strength is not afraid of the quirk of these two at this stage. Some time ago, he had been experimenting to prove one thing, that is, he used Thunder Quirk to imitate skills. What does it mean to imitate skills? That is to say, the anime characters that Chi Feng has seen in his previous life, among them are those who can manipulate thunder, or the skill about thunder. People in this world don't know other parallel worlds or the composition of the world within the dimension, nor do they know the so-called characters, which only Chi Feng knows. But the actual operation is not so easy. After all, the character skills in those animations are created or inherited. What he imitated is only the form, but there is no intention. Unless he has personally seen those characters release their skills, otherwise he can only imitate the form without getting noticed. But there is one thing, his second coming of Thor is unique, so he can also comprehend the nirvana, without worrying about anything. You mean to let the two of us stay here, and you face them both? Yaoyorozu Momo said in disbelief. After all, the other party is Bakugo Katsuki and Shoto Todoroki. Don't worry about this. Even if I can't deal with two, I can pack one away. Hurry up. Shoto Todoroki has already taken action. Chi Feng felt a bit cold around him, and Shoto Todoroki seemed to freeze the building. Yaoyorozu Momo no longer hesitated and immediately created a small heater for Chi Feng, which can be mounted on Chi Feng's combat suit. You two pay more attention, I'll go first. Chi Feng opened the door and left for the only way. The opponent wants to break into this last line of defense, there is only one way to go, and he only needs to defend this way. There is only one entrance on each floor, which is the only place to pass. He still has time before the two of them have reached a high floor. Who told you to use the quirk? Bakugo Katsuki said angrily. The air here immediately dropped and he was a little inconvenient to move. Shoto Todoroki just said faintly. If you find it troublesome or you can't cooperate with me, then you can act by yourself, or you can leave. Huh. Bakugo Katsuki grinned and said, do you want to fight me first? Shoto Todoroki glanced at Bakugo Katsuki, ignoring him and ran directly to the second floor. Damn it. Bakugo Katsuki is not happy with Shoto Todoroki now, each of them pretends to be so cool, and his high look makes him sick. Chapter 20 Lightning Style 1000 Bird Sharp Gun. But at the moment Bakugo Katsuki also knows that it is not suitable to start with Shoto Todoroki. After all, it is really difficult to win by himself. Chi Feng's quirk is in his eyes, and he has analyzed that this is a tricky person. At present, he is still training and taking exams, and he and his own people seem to be a little bit extreme. Such people can't do heroes. Shoto Todoroki's speed is very fast. There are 8 floors in the whole floor. He has reached the 4th floor and the whole building is frozen. He feels that even if the quirk is strong, it is impossible for Chi Feng to withstand the cold, especially in this relatively sealed environment. Under. Mr. Hong, we met again. Chi Feng said with a smile standing at the end of the corridor. Behind him is the entrance to the 6th floor. No, Chi Feng intends to deal with Bakugo Katsuki and Shoto Todoroki alone. Ojiro Mashirao said in surprise, he had never thought of this kind of scene. Hiroshima Eijiro squeezed his fist and said admiringly, this is the man. Why do I suddenly think classmate Chi Feng is very handsome? Hagakure Toru said at this time. Huh. The classmates looked at Hagakure Toru. Aoyama Yuga fiddled with his hair and asked, Yi Yinshin, don't you like classmate Chi Feng? Don't you think Chi Feng is not handsome? Hagakure Toru stammered, but no one could see whether her face was red or white, because she couldn't see it at all. I think classmate Bang is also very handsome. Erlang nodded and said, some girls agreed. Students, please watch the game seriously, please, it will be our turn in a while. Ida Tenya is worthy of the topic Terminator. When this sentence was said, everyone became a little nervous and started watching the screen. Shoto Todoroki didn't say a word, and immediately moved his hands. He stomped slightly on the ground with one foot. An ice stream instantly surrounded Chi Feng, trying to freeze Chi Feng. Chi Feng had seen this trick for a long time. He raised his right hand calmly, and an electric current with the thickness of his thumb instantly penetrated Shoto Todoroki's ice current. Shoto Todoroki's face changed slightly. He finally estimated the strength of Chi Feng. This strength is not an exaggeration even if it is a student, but the other party seems to be admitted to the UA. No matter what, he will go all out. Putting his hands together, Shoto Todoroki pushed his hands forward, and a cloud of ice formed from the palm of his hand in an instant, and he rushed towards Chi Feng. This is a real shot. It's good. Chi Feng smiled suddenly, condensing the power of thunder and lightning with his right hand, and said, lightning-style thousand-bird sharp gun. A blue thunder light came out from the palm of the hand, forming a blue laser with the thickness of only a thumb. One-handed swings burst Shoto Todoroki's ice to pieces like a cutter, and the opponent's ice was instantly disintegrated. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Lightning-style Chidori sharp gun, derived from the anime Naruto, is the lightning-style ninjutsu created by Uchiha Sasuke, which changes the form of Chidori. Although it is not as powerful as Chidori, its attack range is increased. It's just that Chi Feng's current strength can only release a distance of about 1.5 meters, and only the thickness of the thumb. At this moment, after using the Chidori sharp gun, he obviously felt that his physical strength was somewhat reduced. This skill cannot be used too much, although it is only physical. Shoto Todoroki finally changed his color. He had never seen such a quirk skill before. It could actually condense thunder into a line to hit an object, and it was as sharp as a cutter. At this moment Shoto Todoroki truly regarded Chi Feng as his opponent. He must prove himself and then defeat Chi Feng. What kind of tricks did Chi Feng use? Some students said in shock after seeing the pictures on the screen. They felt that Chi Feng was like professionally trained, and was infinitely close to professional heroes. Some people even wonder, can professional heroes do Chi Feng like this? The answer is unknown. Their mystery of Chi Feng has increased again. Currently, Bakugo Katsuki has the strongest test score in the class, which is only the entrance exam. Shoto Todoroki is even better and is directly admitted to school. However, according to rumors, Shoto Todoroki is the number one. Now that a dark horse Chi Feng came out, everyone's scales began to tilt again, and they wanted to recognize Chi Feng again. All Might frowned slightly. The power that Chi Feng showed seemed to be less like a student, more like a professional heroes with experience, but in some respects Chi Feng was inferior to professional heroes. Based on this alone, it makes sense for the school to attach importance to Chi Feng, otherwise the principal would not be able to make Chi Feng join the heroes subject to class. It's just that All Might thinks that Chi Feng is a little weird, but I can't say how weird it is. Dodge, let me kill this arrogant guy. At this moment, Bakugo Katsuki rushed up from behind, leapt directly towards Chi Feng. The flames in his palms kept flickering, as if a big explosion was brewing. Let's come together then. Chi Feng has estimated Shoto Todoroki's strength, and Bakugo Katsuki is not far behind. Facing these powerful two people, he is indeed a little weak, but he still can. Die. Bakugo Katsuki burst into flames from his right hand, the explosion sounded, and he rushed towards Chi Feng. The gray-black smoke spread in an instant. Chi Feng knew that the opportunity was coming. With a picture on his left hand, an invisible force spread. There seemed to be something more in the air, suppressing the flames in the explosion group to a minimum. From the outside, it is mostly black smoke. After avoiding this cloud of smoke, Chi Feng didn't intend to give the two a chance to react, and rushed directly to Bakugo Katsuki. Bakugo Katsuki, who thought he had a chance to win, suddenly saw Chi Feng running towards him in the smoke, which was very fast. The next moment Chi Feng's right hand touched Bakugo Katsuki's chest, a blue light lit up, and Bakugo Katsuki knelt on the ground with her legs soft. At this time, a cloud of ice froze Chi Feng's right hand, and Shoto Todoroki said with a grim face, I won't let you succeed. An even larger ice burst appeared. Chi Feng didn't want to resist and withdrew directly to the 6th floor. After arriving on the 6th floor, Chi Feng found a dead spot on the camera. With a wave of his left hand, he used the force of the air to shake the ice on his right hand. Broken. His hand using thunder quirk was frozen by me. It will not be lifted for a while. You are here to wait for me. Shoto Todoroki finished speaking and prepared to go to the 6th floor. Facing Chi Feng, he had to fight for 12 points. However, Bakugo Katsuki grabbed Shoto Todoroki's left foot. Shoto Todoroki looked down. Bakugo Katsuki gritted his teeth and said with difficulty, How can I be defeated by this guy? Shoto Todoroki didn't speak. At this time, Bakugo Katsuki was still arrogant. This guy seemed to love face so much, and he was also an arrogant person. Can you still act now? Shoto Todoroki asked. No problem. Bakugo Katsuki suddenly yelled. His heart seemed to burn with anger, and his legs trembled a little to stand up, his eyes full of determination to defeat Chi Feng. If you can't, don't force it. Follow me. Shoto Todoroki speeds up to the 6th floor. After all, Chi Feng still has two helpers. Kaminari Denki may be relatively easy to deal with, but Yaoyorozu Momo is also a recommended student with him and is not strong enough. Not guarding. It's long-winded. Bakugo Katsuki curled his lips and followed. Chapter 21. The tie ended. The surrounding temperature is a bit low. Chi Feng's right hand is also a bit stiff. Shoto Todoroki's attack is not ineffective, but very effective. His hand is frozen for a while and he feels the blood is coagulated. This may be Shoto Todoroki's increase in the purity of the ice, otherwise it would not be possible to have such a great power. Maybe it is to deal with him Chi Feng, just use his strength. Bakugo Katsuki basically lost half of his combat effectiveness. Even if he was wearing a combat suit, he could not prevent the paralysis caused by Chi Feng Lei. The current Bakugo Katsuki must be painful and irritated to the skin. Boom! There was a loud noise. Chi Feng jumped up on the spot, and the ground under his feet was directly broken. A cloud of smoke rose, and a cloud of ice burst into smoke instantly hid Chi Feng. Are you going to break the boat? Chi Feng's original plan was disrupted. He can no longer continue to fight. This position is not suitable for him to play, and the space is relatively small and easy to get injured. Thundering guy, don't even think about running. Bakugo Katsuki rushed out of the smoke, and another burst of fire broke out in his palm, hitting Chi Feng's back. Chi Feng raised the light under his feet, doubled his speed and avoided it, then rushed to the top of the 8th floor. In the room on the 8th floor, both Kaminari Denki and Yayorozu Momo heard a violent explosion. It seems that Chi Feng has already fought, and they suddenly became a little nervous. I wonder if Chi Feng can prevent them. Will Chi Feng be okay? Kaminari Denki said worriedly. It should be fine, his quirk is very strong, but facing two equally strong opponents, I am not sure. Yayorozu Momo is more optimistic and thinks more comprehensively. At this moment the door was pushed open. Chi Feng walked in a little embarrassed. Prepare to fight, you will deal with Bakugo in a while, he has only half of his strength now. Give me the rest of Shoto Todoroki. Kaminari Denki and Yayorozu Momo have not answered yet. There was an explosion at the door. When the smoke cleared, Bakugo Katsuki and Shoto Todoroki were already standing there. Thunder God discharged 100,000 volters. Chi Feng took the blame for Thor's return to his hands, and suddenly aroused them. Blue thunder and lightning hit the two of them. Although this kind of thunder was 100,000 volts, it would hurt Bakugo Katsuki and Shoto Todoroki at most, and would definitely not die. Shoto Todoroki's face was solemn, and with a wave of his right hand, an ice wall was formed with ice instantly to prevent lightning from hitting him. The lightning hit the ice wall with a crackling sound, and the thick ice wall became thinner. Damn it, how could he be so strong? Bakugo Katsuki gritted his teeth and said, he couldn't wait any longer. After the lightning reduced, he jumped up suddenly and killed Chi Feng. But they were stopped by Kaminari Denki and Yayorozu Momo. Their task was to deal with Bakugo Katsuki. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Don't get in the way. Bakugo Katsuki came up with a temper and exploded with a blow to the two with both hands. Yayorozu Momo created a huge shield to block the explosion of Bakugo Katsuki, and then the two sides became entangled. Chi Feng crushed the last bit of the ice wall and his descendants are also a little weak. He used too many thunder quirks, and now it seems a little empty. However, his cultivation at the first level of Chi is not covered, his speed is still very fast. He came to Shoto Todoroki and touched him with his right hand. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Shoto Todoroki smiled, and a layer of ice instantly wrapped Chi Feng. Although he didn't know how Chi Feng cracked the ice, it was absolutely impossible to get rid of his body being frozen like this. Chi Feng's face changed. He didn't expect Shoto Todoroki's freezing speed to be so fast. Before he could fully react, his whole body was frozen, leaving only one face exposed. Are you going to lose like this? Chi Feng muttered to himself. Now he can't use air control, one is that All Might will detect it, and the other is that he doesn't have too much energy to break the ice. Shoto Todoroki's face also turned pale. Although the effect of the special uniform was very good, he used his strength in the battle with Chi Feng, and now he also feels his body is weak. He walked towards the nuclear warhead step by step, and the battle was about to end soon. Facing Kaminari Denki and Yayorozu Momo, Bakugo Katsuki was a little hard to fight against. His physical strength is now running low and he can barely support him to fight with them. Most of this reluctance comes from his self-esteem. He never thought that a person at the same starting point as him would walk in front of him, and he would not let Chi Feng ride on his head. So is Choju, but at present, this Chi Feng seems to make him feel more annoying than Choju. It's over. Shoto Todoroki breathed a sigh of relief, and finally came to the nuclear warhead. This battle was really not easy. Facing a strong player like Chi Feng, he understood a lot of his own problems, and he must improve after returning up. Kaminari Denki wanted to intervene in Shoto Todoroki, but was stopped by Bakugo Katsuki. It's discharging, just stay with me. Just when everyone thought Shoto Todoroki was going to win, two blue lights flashed, smashing the nuclear warhead directly. Shoto Todoroki's face changed, and Chi Feng saw two thunderbolts shot out from his eyes. It was actually released from the eyes of the Quirk. The second coming of Thor means that the god of thunder comes to himself. No matter where on the body, he can release thunder and lightning. This is the so-called god of thunder. Although the lightning in the binoculars is small, it can also destroy the nuclear warhead. After the nuclear warhead exploded, a cloud of pink smoke appeared, filling the room. No one thought it turned out to be such a change. All Might's voice sounded at this time. The game is over, the first group is tied. What, it was a draw? Everyone was surprised. They thought Chi Feng's group was even better. Someone also said, Although Chi Feng is very strong, he destroyed the nuclear warhead and died together, so there is nothing wrong with a draw. I think it was Shoto Todoroki's team that lost. At this time, Ida Tenya analyzed. The nuclear warhead is villain's belongings, which means that the life of this city is in the hands of Chi Feng. Although classmate H is about to lift the threat, but classmate Chi Feng detonated the nuclear warhead. Although the group of classmate Chi Feng will die, people in the same city will also die. Since the threat was not lifted, and villain was asked to detonate this terrifying weapon, causing countless deaths and injuries, then the group of Hung students would have lost. The analysis is so thorough. Everyone suddenly woke up, saying that Chi Feng indeed won. At this time, All Might said, although the result I gave was a tie, you should also understand from the analysis of Ida Tenya that villain has never been soft-hearted. If those villain have such methods as Chi Feng, then heroes will definitely in danger. So we can't take chances. Improving our strength is always the first thing we need to do. After All Might finished speaking, he sighed in his heart. Chi Feng's strength once again refreshed his senses. This dark horse is really not easy. Chapter 22, Chi Feng's Strength. Bakugo Katsuki looked at Chi Feng in disbelief. Chi Feng's body was frozen in ice, but he could release the quirk, and release it from his eyes. Is this still a human? Damn it. Bakugo Katsuki punched the ground into a big pit, his chest undulating violently. After training in this competition, he found that he was not really strong, whether it was Chi Feng or Shoto Todoroki. They all seemed to be above him. Shoto Todoroki's quirk is very strong. Just releasing the quirk can freeze the entire building, and it seems that the range of ice burst skills is extremely large. If it weren't for fighting in this environment, his attack range might be wider. As for Chi Feng, it goes without saying. Lei Quirk, a highly lethal quirk, suffered a loss, and his body is still a bit paralyzed. Chi Feng faced the two of them. Under his own confrontation with Shoto Todoroki, he was only a little disadvantaged, but the real winner was Chi Feng. The more Bakugo Katsuki thought about it, the more angry he got. He didn't understand. Where did this guy pop out and how could he be so strong? Standing on the nuclear warhead, Shoto Todoroki looked at Chi Feng silently. Although Chi Feng was frozen and unable to move at the moment, he had to admit that Chi Feng was very strong, and would even be stronger than him. If he uses his father's quirk, Chi Feng shouldn't worry about it, but he can't use it. This is his bottom line. So Chi Feng's current strength can already be equal to him, and even win. Interesting person. Shoto Todoroki smiled suddenly and came to Chi Feng to dissolve the ice that had frozen him. Thank you. Chi Feng smiled slightly. Now he understands Shoto Todoroki's strength, which is indeed very strong. You know that Chi Feng has improved the quirk ability. Now Thor's second coming is already LV2, 50,200, and Shoto Todoroki's current strength is definitely at the LV2 level, but Chi Feng currently does not intend to further improve Thor's return level. Air manipulation is his killer. He won't be naive and loitering every day. The villain alliance will appear soon. He must be prepared. It is best to end Shigaraki Tamura directly. Save points plus 50, the saved person Kaminari Denki. Saving points plus 100, Yayorozu Momo, the rescued person. Chi Feng turned his head and looked. Kaminari Denki and Yayorozu Momo were both looking at themselves, feeling relieved. Although it was a draw, they knew that it was not them but Chi Feng who really worked in this battle. Although Yayorozu Momo made a small heater for Chi Feng to cooperate with Kaminari Denki to stop Bakugo Katsuki, but without Chi Feng's strength, their group would have lost a long time ago. Shoto Todoroki alone would not be what they can deal with at present. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. What Chi Feng sees from Kaminari Denki is admiration and envy, and Yayorozu Momo has admiration in his eyes, but there are some familiar feelings that Chi Feng seems to be ambiguous. It seems that the Yayorozu Momo sauce is just around the corner. Chi Feng laughed. This laugh ignited Bakugo Katsuki, and immediately pointed at Chi Feng and shouted, "Your kid is laughing at me now?" Shoto Todoroki looked at Chi Feng and said flatly, "I hope you can do your best in the next fight." "So are you." Chi Feng knew that Shoto Todoroki hadn't done his best, otherwise the building might be crushed by ice, and the heating equipment provided by Yayorozu Momo would also fail. Hey. Bakugo Katsuki raised his right hand and pointed the device on his arm at Chi Feng and said, "I still have a killer tool that is useless. If you ignore me like this, do you want to taste its power?" Bakugo Katsuki, we will have a chance to fight in the future. What is the monkey anxious? Chi Feng said flatly. He just wants to be angry with Bakugo Katsuki. This guy really thinks that everyone will be used to him. Then Chi Feng took Yayorozu Momo and Kaminari Denki to leave. Bakugo Katsuki grinned and shouted, "What did you say?" The equipment in his hand is about to be excited by him. Bakugo Katsuki seems to be dazzled by anger at this moment, and wants to ignore Chi Feng before giving a lesson. "Bakugo boy, stop." At this time, All Might's voice rang in Bakugo Katsuki's ears. "The game is over, come back quickly." Bakugo Katsuki watched Chi Feng leave. After a long time, he spat on the ground, cut. The main event is that Chi Feng's group and Bakugo Katsuki and Shoto Todoroki's group are over. The two sides ended in a draw, but in fact everyone knows that Chi Feng's group won. Although Chi Feng has an advantage in the number of people, Everyone knows that most of the credit lies with Chi Feng, and he deserves it. The next battle seemed a little flat, except that Tokiyami Fumikage and Midoriya Izuku were slightly more exciting, and the rest were even somewhat dramatic. Everyone has worked hard. All Might pierced his waist and smiled, except for the Midoriya boy and the Bakugo boy. None of them suffered any serious injuries. But everyone is serious about it. As far as the first training is concerned, everyone did a good job. All Might did not particularly praise Chi Feng. After all the students present wanted face and self-respect. If Chi Feng surpassed them too much, and it would be very stressful. After Mr. Aizawa suddenly came to such a serious teaching, it always feels a bit disappointing, Suyu-chan said. It's our freedom to conduct serious teaching. All Might smiled with both hands open. Then I will talk to the Midoriya boy for a comment. You change your clothes. Go back to the classroom. Then he speeded up and ran away. Only Chi Feng knew that All Might's time had come, and he would show up if he didn't leave. After Chi Feng returned to the class, he sat in his seat and did not speak. He wondered how he could use the 1000 rescue points. After the points provided by Himiko Toga, Yayorozu Momo, and Kaminari Denki, Chi Feng's points have now reached the 1000 mark. At the same time, Chi Feng also understands that saving is not to completely influence the opponent or completely defeat, as long as it can make people. Those who rely on, or if the other party has admiration or belief in themselves, will also receive salvation points. This way, it's much easier to handle, and he doesn't have to look for those punks and thugs every time, and he can earn salvation points among his classmates. With 1000 salvation points, Chi Feng didn't really want to get weapons and combat uniforms. He thinks the school does a good job in combat uniforms. This combat uniform can increase the number and scope of his use of lightning. The lightning-style 1000-bird sharp gun is a mimicking skill that was originally displayed for a maximum of 1 meter. Wearing a school-made combat uniform, the suit can reach a distance of 1.5 meters. So now Chi Feng decides to improve his personal ability first. In the system mall, there's a Quirk promotion pill with a clearly marked price, and 500 save points. This kind of Quirk promotion pill can be upgraded one level at a time as long as the Quirk level is below LV5. Let's draw the lottery first. Chi Feng started the lottery draw as soon as he thought about it. Chapter 23 Chi Feng is a pervert. When the pointer falls. When I went up, what turned out to be a toothbrush, This FCK is poisonous. Why is there a toothbrush in the system lottery? Chi Feng was very depressed when he hit the table. Mr. Chi Feng, the table is a public facility in the school. You can't just smash it, you can see cracks. Ida Tenya pointed to the table and said, he said something wrong to the person. I wonder why Chi Feng suddenly became nervous. Smash the table. Ha ha ha, I'm sorry. Chi Feng said awkwardly. He was so excited that he almost smashed the table. Although we are friends, we can't indulge you in destroying public property. Ida Tenya said righteously, supporting his glasses. Mr. Ida, is your toothbrush still enough? Chi Feng asked suddenly. Toothbrush? Ida Tenya asked suspiciously, it's enough, what's the matter? I'll give you a good one. You can take it home and use it. Chi Feng took a white toothbrush from his pocket, which was extracted from the system, and handed it to Ida Tenya. Ida Tenya took the toothbrush with some confusion. He couldn't figure out why Chi Feng carried something like a toothbrush with him and gave it to him. Is there any difference in this toothbrush? Ida Tenya asked tentatively. It's better than the toothbrush you bought. You'll know if you go back and try it. Chi Feng said casually. He keeps the toothbrush for himself and is useless. It is better to give it to Ida Tenya. He doesn't know what the toothbrush got in the system lottery is good. The effect may be an ordinary toothbrush. Ida Tenya took the toothbrush and left in a dubious manner. Chi Feng started the second draw. He had to take a moment to draw 100 salvation points. If he draws this kind of toothbrush or something, then there is really no fun. Get system goods Quirk upgrade Dan. Oh yeah. Chi Feng jumped up excitedly, and finally got what he wanted, so that his strength would rise again. Then smoke. Obtained the system commodity Wongren toothpaste. What kind of ghost toothpaste? Is it compatible with the previous toothbrush? Chi Feng's good mood has been destroyed again. This system is really amazing. The toothbrush and toothpaste are all coming together. Will it be the toothcup next time? Some classmates looked at Chi Feng. They wondered if Chi Feng had any disease, and why they were angry and upset at the same time. Chi Feng touched the back of his head in embarrassment and left the classroom. He was afraid of affecting others in the lottery draw here. He was like this when the lottery draw was at home, and he liked to be surprised. After arriving in the men's room, Chi Feng found a box with a toilet, hid in it, closed the door and started the fourth lottery draw. Get system goods Quirk supplement. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. What is this? Chi Feng looked at the red cuboid that was the size of a lighter in his hand, and said in confusion. There is a protruding mouth on the cuboid, which seems to be used for inhalation. This reminds Chi Feng of one thing, electronic cigarettes. The e-cigarette is constructed like this, and it is filled with smoke. Is this Quirk supplement also used for smoking? After understanding the system, Chi Feng's previous guess was correct. This thing is really used to suck. The function is that after the Quirk is weak, it is impossible to use more supplements after the Quirk. This small quirk supplement can only take 3 puffs, and each puff can restore the quirk to its original full state, which is equivalent to restoring physical strength and reaching the peak strength. This thing is good. Chi Feng thinks it is very good. After all, if you encounter a powerful villain and exhaust yourself when you are fighting with villain, you can recover immediately as long as you take a mouthful of it, which is simply a bug. Get system merchandise black dress. Damn, what the hell does this stuff have? Chi Feng looked at the black dress in his hand with a bit spicy eyes. He didn't expect the lottery to be drawn even for women's clothes, so this system doesn't even have to point his face. But having said that, the broken flowers on this black dress are still very beautiful. They may be sold at a high price in the mall outside, but the point is that he can't get it. Do you go to someone's clothing store and say that the quality of the clothes is top-notch workmanship? Can you not accept them? Is that definitely going to be kicked out? This is not China. There are not so many second-hand markets to trade, and it is nothing for a man to sell women's clothing. Why don't you give it to Yayorozu Momo? Chi Feng suddenly smiled. Yayorozu Momo is absolutely beautiful in this dress, a seductive batch. At this moment, what Chi Feng doesn't know is that Mineta Minoru is going to the toilet next door. Damn it, I didn't expect this Chi Feng to be a decent villain. He wants to grab Yayorozu sauce with me. Mineta Minoru gritted his teeth, as if tears were about to flow down. Indeed, he wants to cry very much. Chi Feng is above him in terms of height and appearance. The most important point is that Chi Feng is strong. This is a huge gap that he cannot bridge. Such a competitor, how could Mineta Minoru be his opponent? He wanted to cry abnormally when he thought of this. He thinks that Chi Feng may have a split personality, or something abnormal. A man talking to himself in the toilet, grinning for a while, cursing again. No, I have to tell Yayorozu sauce about this, and I can't let him be deceived by Chi Feng's appearance as a shameless villain. Mineta Minoru has decided to report Chi Feng in his heart, so that he is missing one of the strongest competitions, opponent. He didn't even look at Bakugo Katsuki Shoto Todoroki Midoriya Izuku, because it was not of the same grade at all. It was like everyone else was thinking about becoming stronger, and you were immersed in a gentle country. These are completely two worlds. So Mineta Minoru thinks Chi Feng is the biggest threat. Crunch. Who? Chi Feng was suddenly wary, took the black dress back to the system warehouse, and asked tentatively. Mineta Minoru stood there in a daze, unexpectedly making a noise when opening the door. This time he was about to be discovered. Chi Feng felt that the other party had heard what he said to himself just now. Although he didn't say anything about the system, he was laughing and angry in the toilet by himself. Obviously, it made people think more. The most important point, he said, why don't you give it to Yayorozu Momo? This sentence is absolutely suspicious. It's you, little grape. Chi Feng opened the door and caught Mineta Minoru, who was about to slip away. Hello, classmate Chi. Mineta Minoru smiled awkwardly. Why do you have no sound when you go to the toilet? Chi Feng had been in the toilet since the beginning and didn't hear Mineta Minoru's movement. If it hadn't been for Mineta Minoru to make a sound when he opened the door, maybe he didn't know there was someone next door. Mineta Minoru couldn't answer. Did you hear what I said? Chi Feng asked suddenly, looking a little scary. Ah! Mineta Minoru was so scared that he screamed and ran away, yelling in the hallway. Be careful, everyone. Chi Feng is a pervert. Chi Feng. What the hell is this FCK? Chapter 24. Mineta Minoru kept yelling in the corridor and immediately attracted Class A-like heroes. Student Mineta Minoru, what are you talking nonsense? Ida Tenya walked out in surprise. The other students also followed behind, a little unclear. I saw Mineta Minoru ran over with tears in his eyes and said vaguely. Chi Feng. Classmate Chi Feng is a pervert. Ah. What are you talking about? Everyone was shocked. Mineta Minoru actually said that Chi Feng is a pervert. What is going on? He laughed and cursed in the men's room, and he said something to Yayorozu Momo. In short, it is very awkward, Mineta Minoru said loudly. He must let Chi Feng keep in the eyes of everyone. The next wretched label, so that he can ascend the throne in the future. Impossible. Ida Tenya waved his hand and said, although Chi Feng is a bit strange at times, I believe he is definitely not a perverted and wretched man. Yes, Chi Feng is so strong, even if she likes any girl, it's not an exaggeration. It's so surprising. I don't believe Chi Feng would say that. Ashido Mina stood on Chi Feng's standpoint, said. That's it, I also think that Mineta Minoru is exaggerating. Are you scammed? Kirishima Eijiro knocked on the grape head of Mineta Minoru, and it was actually stuck. You. Why don't you believe what I said? Mineta Minoru wanted to cry without tears. This is obviously true. None of these classmates believed what he said. Is it Chi Feng in their eyes? Is the status so high? At this time, Chi Feng came over leisurely and saw that everyone was discussing his affairs here. There was a little drumming in his heart, but he still pretended to be calm and said, what are you doing out there? Ah, Mr. Chi Feng, you are here. Ida Tenya walked up. Just now, Mineta Minoru said you. That you are a pervert, we're here to refute. Chi Feng touched his forehead, then looked at Mineta Minoru and said, I was watching a mobile phone series just now, so I may have affected you by speaking, sorry. For little grape Chi Feng, he knows nothing better. This guy is a demon with a child's body. Don't look at him as a small and cute man. In fact, he is already mature in that respect. The reason for accusing him is that he wants to be dominant, so that he will not be able to pick up girls and enjoy the beauty in the future. In this regard, Chi Feng is doing his part. Little Grape has a lot of thoughts, thinking he is a fool. He also uses such pediatric tricks. It can only say that he chose the wrong person. You lie, Mineta Minoru said in disbelief. You definitely want to touch Yayorozu Momo. At this time, Yayorozu Momo walked up and threw the Little Grape directly with a dark face. The Little Grape rolled on the ground 10 times in tears before stopping. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. I just said how Chi Feng could be like that. Okay, let's all leave. Ida Tenya began to command the evacuation. After all, it is still teaching time. Chi Feng breathed a sigh of relief. This Little Grape can really toss. It seems that next time he goes to the toilet, he has to be more careful, don't talk to himself and get caught. After this training, the classmates of Heroes Class A seem to be more passionate. Among them, Chi Feng and Midoriya occupy the leading position. They let everyone feel a breath of passion, and it seems that they have all become heroes in the near future. Judge evil for your own justice. Although it is not their turn to judge the crime, it can be stopped. There are certain things that heroes must do, and it is incumbent on them for generations to come. After school, Chi Feng just walked to the entrance of UA High School and saw a group of reporters and people gathered around Midoriya asking questions. Chi Feng immediately took out a hat from his backpack and put it on his head and walked out. He doesn't want to be interviewed by reporters, and he doesn't want to be on TV. After all, the villain alliance will act after a while, and it may be very troublesome if he is watched by the other party. Mr. Chi Feng. Midoriya's head was a little big when he was asked. Suddenly he saw Chi Feng walking by. Although Chi Feng was wearing a cap, the clothes he was wearing were still Chi Feng's, so he recognized it at a glance. You have admitted the wrong person. Chi Feng walked directly out of the crowd after speaking. At this moment, the female reporter suddenly walked up and said to Chi Feng with a microphone, "This classmate, how about UA Academy? What's the gain? Why is the UA Academy not open to the outside world?" No comment. Chi Feng didn't bother to pay attention to her and left the female reporter directly. This is the quality of UA High School students like this? The female reporter said with some dissatisfaction, and the other people were also a little angry. This attitude was too bad, and she blocked her face and thought she was a star. Midoriya stared blankly at Chi Feng leaving, admitting the wrong person? This is obviously Chi Feng. Okay, he can't admit his mistakes, but why does Chi Feng cover his face with a hat? Is there any hidden feeling? Seeing to remember to catch him, Midoriya went to the health room on the pretext of slipping away. Can you tell us what it looks like as a symbol of peace standing on the podium? The female reporter passed the microphone forward. How? Like, Uraraka Ochako said embarrassedly, that, muscles all over. What do you think about the teacher All Might? The female reporter looked at Ida Tenya and asked. Ida Tenya said very seriously, this makes me more clearly aware that I am studying at this top university. Needless to say, His Majesty in style, as well as this humorous side. Our students often see his many styles, so this is definitely an excellent opportunity for us to learn directly how top heroes are made. Ida Tenya kept talking, but the reporters seemed to not want to listen. What kind of player is this, so to speak? Sorry for interrupting. May I ask about All Might? Huh? The female reporter chased Bakugo Katsuki and suddenly remembered, and asked, you are the person of the sludge incident. Shut up. Bakugo Katsuki gritted his teeth. In the end, the reporters asked Aizawa Shota, and it turned out to be dirty, but Aizawa Shota didn't pay much attention to the reporters. The reporters were a little unconvinced. They wanted to know about All Might in UA High School. In the end, UA Academy raised the hero's barrier and blocked the reporters and the masses. Chi Feng did not leave. He watched all this behind a relatively hidden tree. Shigaraki Tamura stood behind the crowd, dressed in black clothes without wind. He really came. Chi Feng clenched his fist. Time is running out. He must seize the time to improve his strength. It is best to share it with All Might. After all, the whole country already knows about All Might, and he will become the target of all the villains. Chapter 25. Air manipulation is frightening. Sister Ying, you don't have to send me a bento tonight. I have something to go out. Chi Feng came to the Fujiwara convenience store and said while looking at the haggard Inoue Ying. Recently, I heard that Inoue Sakura has insomnia and dreams. It seems to have had a lot of nightmares. The dream is about a big fire. Repeating this dream seems a little strange. Chi Feng feels a little distressed about this. Under such circumstances, Sister Ying is still giving him lunch. If it weren't for the fact that her face is a little unpleasant these few days, Chi Feng doesn't know that there is still this. Inoue Sakura said with some worry, Zhaofeng, I feel a little uneasy recently, don't run around, I'm worried. Sister Ying, it's okay. Take care of yourself and take more rest. Don't work too hard. If it doesn't work, I can raise you. Chi Feng smiled slightly. Although he has no money to raise Sister Ying, it doesn't mean that he is not capable of making money. Inoue Ying nodded her head warmly in her heart. She was very pleased, and now she completely regards Chi Feng as her younger brother. After Chi Feng got home, he took a hot shower and bought a Quirk promotion pill directly in the System Mall. At present, he has 2 quirk upgrade pills, one is drawn by lottery, and the other one is purchased from the system store. The former does not have the effect of directly raising the level of the latter, but according to Chi Feng's current quirk level, can also be improved by 1 level. Chi Feng first chooses to eat the quirk from the lottery to promote Dan, improve the air manipulation quirk. Air manipulation LV 250,200, the promotion is successful. Chi Feng didn't hesitate to swallow the second quirk, improve the air control quirk. Air manipulation LV 3,100,300, the promotion is successful. Chi Feng felt that the invisible power in his body was much stronger, which was slightly better than Thor's return. Chi Feng tried to punch out the wall from the air, a ripple appeared, and a hole was directly opened in the wall. The size of the hole was an adult fist. This is the result of Chi Feng's control of his power. Then Chi Feng came to the rooftop, his left hand condensed strength and slammed into the air, only to hear a slight click. The surrounding air seemed to be evacuated all of a sudden, forming an invisible shock. If Villain was in front of him at this moment, his hammer would be able to shatter the opponent's internal organs. Chi Feng waved his hand again, and a stream of air flowed from his hand, flew to the water tank in the opposite building, and directly penetrated it. After the water tank was penetrated, the water gushed down like a dam with a bursting dike. Just when the water was about to fall, Chi Feng grabbed his left hand, and the gushing water stopped instantly, and then it went up and was loaded again. Go back. Ha 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 ha. Standing on the rooftop, Chi Feng exuberantly yelled. From today onwards, I, Chi Feng, can be considered a powerful party. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Which neuropathy is yelling? Doesn't Lousy know he's doing errands? There was a roar from downstairs, and the other party seemed to be interrupted at a certain critical moment and scolded extremely angrily. Chi Feng laughed, it's time to live a chicken. Then he jumped directly from the rooftop on the 10th floor. Attaching the air manipulation to the body, it seems that the surrounding airflow is freely manipulated by him, and he can currently glide in the sky for a period of time. Then he landed on the opposite building, then jumped again, gliding between the floors like a bird. Before he knew it, Chi Feng had moved away from his residence and came to a riverside. He stood on the hillside watching the surging of the river, and decided to do something tonight. If you didn't guess wrong, the villain alliance is now ready, and it seems that Nomu should be made as a big killer. It may not have been tested. Chi Feng hasn't been able to beat Nomu yet, and even All Might needs to do his best. What is he now? However, it is impossible for Nomu to have only one. Chi Feng remembered that Nomu's manufacturing plant was hidden somewhere in the city, but he did not know the specific location of that location, so he could only look for it first. Chi Feng first bought a black cloak in the supermarket to cover his hands and release his skills so as not to be noticed. At 8:30, there's a lot of people on the street. Chi Feng seems a little out of place. Some people look at Chi Feng with strange eyes. Although many of the heroes have strange shapes and even dress styles, people like Chi Feng who are wrapped in a black cloak know at first glance that they are not serious people. Steal things. Steal things. Suddenly a woman yelled in front of him, and the crowd was separated instantly. A man with a coxcomb head rushed towards Chi Feng with a lady's bag in his hand. Go away. Coxcomb was also an awakened one. He saw Chi Feng blocking his escape route and shouted suddenly. Chi Feng's clothes are very weird, that is, he can't even see his face. The coxcomb head thinks that something is wrong with this guy, but he releases Quirk, who didn't want to hurt people. A flame burst out from the mouth of the coxcomb head and rushed towards Chi Feng. Chi Feng was expressionless, holding his left hand, and the air was instantly controlled by him. The flame of the coxcomb head disappeared instantly, and then he knelt down suddenly with his eyes wide open. His hands on his neck looked abnormally uncomfortable, and his face flushed instantly. There was a look of fear in the eyes of the coxcomb head. The flame he released was dissipated, and then he began to have difficulty breathing. Is this the other party's Quirk? What the hell is this Quirk? It is so terrifying. It is simply the best interpretation of murder. Chi Feng didn't kill him. After all, this is a legal society. Even heroes must be punished for killing. He is not heroes yet, and he has no right to shoot. On the side of the road at this time, a professional heroes rushed over, kicked the comb to the ground, and subdued him under the eyes of everyone. The crowd only saw the shot of this professional heroes, but they didn't know why the coxcomb head knelt and covered his neck in pain, and no one knew that Chi Feng did it. The air manipulation force dissipated, Chi Feng turned and left, and the professional heroes appeared, and nothing happened to him. Wait. The professional heroes stood up after subduing the coxcomb head and stared at Chi Feng's back. He thought the man in the cloak in front of him was a bit suspicious. Is there anything? Chi Feng lowered his voice. Please turn around and take off your cloak. A large group of people have gathered around the professional heroes, all watching the excitement. Take off the cloak. What do you think? The cloak is impossible to take off in this life. If Chi Feng takes off his cloak now, he will inevitably not be spotted by the spies of Villain Alliance. If he knows that he is Aua High School's crownhead being subdued, once the video is revealed, as long as it is more capable, it can be seen. Doorway. Chi Feng stood in front of the coxcomb head. The opponent sprayed the flames but was suddenly extinguished, and then rolled painfully on the ground. A little analysis shows that this was done by Chi Feng, so it is difficult to hide from the strong. Goodbye by chance. Chi Feng exploded with power from both feet and flew up to the sky, controlling the airflow with both hands to prevent falling. Able to fly. The professional heroes was surprised. Who on earth could fly? There is an essential difference between normal jumping and flying. He can still see this. Now it seems that this guy is definitely not simple, so he immediately took out the walkie-talkie and said, "A suspicious person is found, please come to XX area for support."